One of my all-time favorites from Stevie Wonder, going back to this day in 1973, 53 years ago, Superstition became Stevie Wonder's second number one single in the United States. Came a full decade after his first number one hit. And did you know that Superstition was not originally going to be a Stevie Wonder song? After he wrote it, he offered it to Jeff Beck. But instead, primarily at the insistence of his own producer, they said, you know what, Stevie, you ought to record that song yourself. And so he does, and Superstition becomes a number one for Stevie Wonder on this day back in 1973. This day is the 27th of January, 2026. And every time I sit down here at this microphone, I have prepared for you issues to discuss. But sometimes that preparation gets thrown out the window when our phone lines light up immediately. I've reminded you repeatedly that every day when we begin this show, phone lines are open at 519-570-2545, star 570, or 1-800-570-5715. So far be it from me to get in your way. Let's start by talking to our good buddy. He's laughing already. Wait, did a certain hockey team play last night and I didn't know it, Sheffy? What's going on?
No, you know what? I just got back from being somewhere where it was warmer than here.
Oh,
and, floating on the ocean, not being in contact, that type of thing. And Farwell, I just want to know what's going on with your hockey team.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you missed me or something like that.
I missed you immensely, young man.
I'll tell you what's going on with my hockey team, Sheffy. They can't win at home. They should go back on the road and try their luck there. They were doing real good for a while, don't you know?
Oh, okay. Well, my team wasn't. I guess they lost 2 in a row too. So I really can't say anything. But I haven't, I haven't rattled your chain since last year.
No wonder it was so quiet. I hope you had a lovely vacation.
It was interesting. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay, fair enough. All right, buddy. Well, thanks for checking in.
Well, and can you turn the heat up, please?
Oh, my gosh. If I had that power, Sheffy, it would be so damn hot out there right now.
I wore long pants yesterday, Mike.
You did not.
I was out snow blowing.
Okay.
Even my grandson said he went to my Trish going, "Is that Papa? He's got pants on."
Listen, this winter has even broken you, Sheffy.
Right?
Yes. We'll work on turning up the temperature.
Okay, thank you. Well, you take care. Have a great show, young man.
Thanks, buddy. Always good to hear from you.
Talk to you soon.
You too, Chef D, our good buddy. Little Something Different, his new restaurant in Cambridge. And he's a fan of the team that shall not be named, but he wanted to check in after being away for a little bit and remind me that my team, the greatest hockey team on the planet, the Toronto Maple Leafs, not doing so well right now. Maybe the Leafs can turn that around tonight. Alan, Farwell's Force member number 148. Good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Before I get into my comment, have you ever heard of the record Alice's Restaurant by Arlo Guthrie?
I do not know. I do not know that one.
You should go onto YouTube.
Okay.
And look up Alice's Restaurant Massacre.
Okay.
By Arlo Guthrie.
Arlo Guthrie.
It's about 18 minutes long, and it's the funniest record you'll ever hear.
I will definitely look that up. I remember Alice, the TV show. She worked at Mel's Diner. That's all I remember.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
This is
Alice's Restaurant.
Alice's Restaurant. Anyway, I want to comment on the two people that you had at the end of your show yesterday, and also the one that was at the end of December. Now, I don't know where their brains are, but they're not in their head. I guess they don't know a little bit of history. That back in 1932, 33, there was a man that became powerful in Germany, and he blamed everything on a certain ethnic group, and he started to round them up and put them in camps that had, the accommodations, showers, and furnaces. And like Mark Carney said, the rich nations are going to gang up on the poor nations, and you can see that now with what's going on in the U.S., where they're shooting people, going into their homes, or dragging them out, and it's just deplorable the way this man, and he's another madman too, and he wants to take over the world as well.
I don't think there's any question about that. He certainly seems intent on U.S. expansion. And if you were listening yesterday, we did have some heated discussion towards the end of our talkback hour around the latest ICE shooting in Minneapolis. And I stubbornly refused to accept any buts in the situation. I am not okay with those who are alleged to be responsible for law enforcement being the ones that shoot people dead in the streets of the cities they are there to enforce the law in. We will talk a little bit more about that on the show this morning at 11, as we have tracked down a former FBI executive for her perspective on what we are bearing witness to in the States. So that's a little preview of what's coming up this morning on the show at 11 a.m. Chris is with us on the phones early this morning as well. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Mike. How's it going, buddy?
Not bad, thanks. How's it going with you?
It's going.
Okay.
I'm really kind of disappointed in the Waterloo region, especially the region itself, for the two accidents that went over the ramp yesterday. I think that the ramp should have been absolutely closed after the first car went over, and all that snow should have been removed.
Yeah, so I just want to, and listen, I know that there's going to be more to this story in the days and weeks ahead for sure, but I just want to make something really clear here. As much fun as it is to criticize our regional government or our municipal government, each and every bit of what happened yesterday was under the purview of the provincial government. It was provincial police responding. It is the province's responsibility to clear that snow. So I just want to make sure that we understand which level of government is responsible.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you point that out. Then in that case, I'm kind of irked. Someone died, and knowing the situation, one car goes over, they should have known that that likely could have happened again. There's no excuses here.
Chris, I hear you, and I appreciate the call and the concern and the opportunity for me to clarify whose jurisdiction this is. I drive past that flyover on my way to work every day, and I wondered last evening, as I thought more about what had happened yesterday, if they wouldn't consider closing down the flyover until they could get the snow cleared. And then I just started working through in my brain what the logistics of that would have looked like. And I can tell you that yesterday afternoon on my way home, the backup on Highway 78 eastbound to get onto Highway 8 east, which is not using the flyover, was really backed up. The Ottawa Street exit from the expressway was really backed up. And it had to be because of the rubberneckers checking out the police operation still going on beneath the flyover. And the flyover remained open. And I think about it, the amount of traffic I see in the morning on my way to work, I couldn't imagine rerouting each of those vehicles. So I also thought, boy, oh boy, if I'm the one approaching that flyover this morning? At what speed am I approaching that flyover this morning? I will bet my bottom dollar, Chris, and there aren't many dollars in my pocket to get to the bottom. I'll tell you that for free. But I will bet the bottom dollar in my pocket that you will see a rather robust snow clearing operation on that flyover before week's end. I think probably even before the end of the week, but like in the next day or two. But I'll bet you by Friday at the latest, it's only Tuesday now, by Friday at the latest, you will see a major snow clearing operation underway on that roundabout, or on that flyover, pardon me. And what happens from there, I don't know. One more quick weather-related note before we get to our Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning, and that is this. Is it just me? Am I the only one that finds it a wee bit amusing when we have a day like today, after a quote-unquote snow day, that is actually worse than the day when the snow day was declared? I don't know about you, but when I got up this morning, and it's clearing up now, but when I got up this morning and drove into work, that snow was a blowing and a whipping, and visibility was poor. Like, way poorer than it was yesterday when I came to work, well after the snow had stopped. But yesterday was deemed to be worthy of closing all schools, canceling all buses, etc. But this morning, we just got right out there and got to business, didn't we? I find that really ironic. Yesterday, clear as a bell. This morning, blowing snow you could barely see through, but yeah, that's okay. We're going to go to school today.
1, 2.
How about your Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning? Number 1, bitter cold and blowing snow to start our day. And the deep freeze is expected to last all week. Wind chill values will be hanging around the minus 30 mark. So to go back to what our buddy Chef D said moments ago when he was our first caller on the show today, can somebody turn up the heat? Come on with your coming on. Number 2, Waterloo Council has unanimously approved a plan to demolish a church on Lincoln Road and transform the property into affordable housing. The former St. Columba Church will be demolished in the spring, and the city will host a public meeting in March. The site may be used as public green space once the church is demolished. The city bought the property last April with an original intention to create an arts hub. Number 3, on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, a political scientist says it appears to her as if Prime Minister Mark Carney does not think a lot of business gets done in the House of Commons. Dalhousie University professor Laurie Turnbull says skipping out on question period could be a political strategy, but warns it also could undermine the public's trust. Carney was absent from question period on the first day back in Parliament yesterday following the holiday break. He instead used the morning in Ottawa to announce a temporary 25% hike to the GST credit before heading to Toronto for a trade meeting with the Premier of Ontario. Can I just add to that trade meeting? Because I think Prime Minister Carney and I became best friends yesterday when he met Premier Ford in Toronto for that trade meeting. They went for lunch together. They went to a pizza place. Now, Doug Ford gets his vegetarian pizza because he doesn't eat red meat. But my new best friend, Prime Minister Carney, he ordered himself a Hawaiian. And let me tell you right now, pineapple belongs right there on top of that pizza. Don't you at me on that, because you know that's the truth. Pineapple on pizza is the best way to enjoy it. Me and Prime Minister Carney, maybe we'll go for pizza together sometime. Number 4 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning. Nominations now open for the 51st anniversary of the Kitchener-Waterloo Oktoberfest Women of the Year Awards. BMO Financial Group has been announced as a new sponsor for the event. The annual celebration will take place on Thursday, May the 21st. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning. Back-to-back weeknight games for your Kitchener Rangers. I've been trying to, my memory ain't what it used to be. I'll give you that. But back-to-back weeknight games, like not Thursday, Friday, technically weeknight, but Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday, back-to-back. for your Kitchener Rangers. But yes, that's the case. It begins tonight on home ice versus Sarnia. The Rangers are looking for an 8th straight win, while Sarnia comes to Kitchener on a 4-game losing streak. Tomorrow night, the Rangers travel to Owen Sound. Your Harris Law pregame show starts tonight at 6:30 right here on 570 News Radio. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning.
Can I have 2 liters of pop? Can I have 2 liters of pop? Well, what's more healthy, 4 beers or 2 liters of Coca-Cola? Do the math.
I don't think I need to remind you of the open phone lines because you have already taken advantage of them. As I said, I always come to this microphone with an idea or two to talk to you about, or maybe you've got more to say. Your morning wake-up call is coming up right after this quick break. Either you can make it or I will. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is time for your morning wake-up call here on the Mike Farwell Show. A couple of bigger things on my mind this morning. I did find myself chuckling as I drove to work through blowing snow, wondering why yesterday was declared the snow day. Methinks the people that make the snow day decisions painted themselves into a wee bit of a corner with their decision to pull the chute yesterday. And yes, it is possible. It is possible that the Prime Minister and I became best friends yesterday when he ordered a Hawaiian pizza for his lunch with Ontario Premier Doug Ford. I found it rather interesting, as I so often do, paying attention to Waterloo Council last night and its unanimous decision to move forward with the demolition of St. Columba Church at the corner of Lincoln and Mayfield in Waterloo to make way for affordable housing. And listen, I think that any time you can make public space available for more housing, particularly affordable, attainable housing, this is a very good thing. But what I find interesting this time around, it is very much in keeping with this council in Waterloo. It's like the parent council. They know what's best. I should have got a little Mary Poppins here this morning. A little bit of sugar helps the medicine go down, right? A spoonful of sugar. I remember the song. It was Mary Poppins, right? Anyway, the way it works is this. Last week, for example, Waterloo Council voted to move forward with a renoviction bylaw that's going to cost the city $365,000 up front and then $450,000 every year, a cost that is absolutely going to go up in the future because you're paying salaries on that. They always go up. You're going to need to upgrade software along the way. That's going to cost you something. So $800,000 today, $450,000 plus in the years ahead for something that it has no business getting involved in. It's a provincial issue to deal with, but the city thought, well, no, we're going to insert ourselves here. And they went against the advice of expert staff. Like, the staff are employed by the city for a reason, to provide guidance, and council's like, no, we got this. We know what's best. We are the parent. You're the child. We know what's good for you. I think it was a misguided decision last week. And then here we are at St. Columba Church, which was originally going to be an arts hub. And the city made a pretty big deal about that. We're going to purchase this church. It's going to be turned into an arts hub. And then they pumped the brakes and said, you know what? Housing, affordable housing, again, which is a very noble pursuit. However, neighbors in the area have organized and said, we don't like this use of the land. And I get it, NIMBY this and NIMBY that, not in my backyard. I hear you. But how many neighbors have shown up to delegate to council in Waterloo over the last many months to register their opposition to the change of use for this former church? And I'll tie that back into the renovation bylaw, which in the staff report recommending against implementing a $450,000 a year annual cost forever and ever, amen, there were an average of 7 evictions every year in Waterloo out of 20,000 plus rental units. Like, we're not even talking a third or barely a third of 1%, 1/3 of 1%, 7 evictions a year. And Waterloo Council, like, we got to respond to this. And they heard from people at council last week, some of whom I guarantee didn't even live in Waterloo, and went on the side of the rent eviction bylaw. 7 or more residents in that neighborhood of Waterloo opposed to the use, but nope, this time Waterloo knows what's best again, right? And council, that's it. Church is gone and housing is coming in, even though more than 7 residents are opposed to the plan. It's very interesting to me. Waterloo Council does what Waterloo Council wants to do. And I suppose that's what we elect them for, right? To carry out what they think is best for the city. It's just from one week to the next. Who knows? Who knows? You 7 people we're listening to. You 7 people we're not listening. I don't know. The other question I have is sort of around snow clearing. And I don't mean this to be one of those too soon things, but what I'm wondering about is this: our salt shortage, which has been well documented. How long does a salt shortage last anyway? Like, we got this salt mine in Godrich, right? Like, the largest in the world, if I'm not mistaken. But if that's your source for salt and the Godrich salt mine can't provide enough salt, like, how long do you just twiddle your thumbs and say, okay, well, when you can get to it, just send us the salt? Like, are there no other places in the world that we can source the damn salt? Or do we just sit here and say, salt shortage, can't get the salt out there because there's a salt shortage? Is it a global salt shortage is what I'm wondering. And if we had, upon identifying this shortage some weeks ago, which is when we first started talking about it, if we had then begun the process of sourcing salt from an alternative supplier, could we have received our salt by now? I'm just curious about that, because as I drove home from work yesterday, the expressway was like, it was almost there. It was a nice sunny afternoon, albeit a very cold afternoon, but a nice sunny afternoon. And we were going from track bare to wet in some places. Like, the salt that had been applied was beginning to have some effect. And with the week that we've got, I think the snow we saw overnight and through this morning is about all we're going to get. This is a great week full of opportunity to clean stuff up. And I know that's a lot of work on our crews for sure, but I have a feeling that's got to be the plan, to get out there and do a good cleanup before the next one comes, whenever the next one comes. So wouldn't it be nice if we had the salt? So how long does a salt shortage last? If our usual supplier can't help, how many other suppliers are we checking in with? Because surely somewhere in the world there is salt that we could get sent to us here to manage our needs. I don't know. It's just, these are questions that I ask myself when I'm driving on the roads in this region. All right, I'm going to get you to the 570 News Center for an update. And then, as you probably know, the province has made some changes to recycling in our communities. We have not yet fully adopted those changes here, but they're coming. In Guelph, the transformation has already occurred, and to say it ain't going well would be a bit of an understatement. We'll check in on that with the Mayor of Guelph next on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We have been talking about it here in the region for a bit. So you have probably heard that Circular Materials, a not-for-profit, is going to take on the job of curbside recycling collection, no longer the responsibility of the municipality. We have not yet made the transition fully here in the region of Waterloo, but they have in Guelph, and, well, things ain't exactly going smoothly, to say the least. Guelph Mayor Cam Guthrie joins us to talk about it. Mayor Guthrie, good morning.
Morning, Mike. Morning to your listeners.
It's great to have you here to help shed some light on what's gone wrong with recycling in your city. What have the hiccups been along the path to Circular Materials taking over collection?
Yeah, so this is interesting. The province of Ontario has mandated these changes across the province, and slowly other municipalities are coming on stream, no pun intended. And they have mandated that the blue boxes are now not going to be the responsibility of the municipality. And there was really two benefits to this. One is it could lower the cost so that the producers are paying for that pickup and recycling. So there can be financial benefit to the cities. And the second would be that it can increase, from an environment point of view, more that could be actually put into recycling, which is a good thing. And I would say that both of those two things have have in most part come to fruition. They actually are working. Where we're seeing some major problems, though, is literally in just the service delivery of the pickup of the blue bins now. And I know this has been echoed across from some other mayors from other cities that have transitioned. So we're having missed routes, bins like being left out for multiple days, no sort of customer service callback from the private company that's now picking them up. We've had lots of bins that have been dropped actually fully into the trucks and getting damaged. And so this type of thing is now becoming a part of our city staff's now triage when we weren't supposed to be involved in this at all. And so that is where I'm getting a little bit frustrated, not only for our citizens' point of view, but also that there's a cost to our own staff to have to manage these issues when they aren't our issue anymore.
So what is the next step towards solution here? Does Circular Materials need to have some sort of area manager to respond to such complaints? Because surely if the city's not responsible, I get that you're the access point, but somewhere along the line, the accountability ball has been dropped here.
Yeah, great question. And I right off the top here, I do want to also give credit to Circular Materials because it was not even like an hour or two when my letter went public that the CEO called me directly. And so credit where credit is due. And that happened on Friday last week. And they have already looked to set up a meeting either today or tomorrow with the private pickup collection agency and the business, sorry. And we're going to try to get this settled. He was very good on the phone. He understood. He says it's not right. We want to get to the bottom of it. We want to get solutions. But I will say that, this is something that our citizens have expected and have experienced for years under the municipality, not really having any problems. And so with a transition, I can understand. I mean, everyone's got to give a bit of grace here for sure. But to a certain point, though, it starts to tip the scales a little bit that these issues are ongoing. It's escalating. We've had about an 1,100% increase in complaints in 1 year. And so I need them to step up. I need them to get this solved because it can't continue this way.
You mentioned earlier, Mayor Guthrie, that these concerns have been echoed in other municipalities as this transition is underway. So are you kind of taking one for the team here? Is this a cautionary tale for us here in the region where the transition hasn't fully occurred yet?
I think it is important for this to be much more public because I do think it's important that, number one, the citizens of Guelph see that I'm actually listening to what's happening and I can respond in the manner that I did. It also sends a message not just to Circular Materials, but to the private company that is doing the pickup of the blue bin now. But the final piece is why I think it's important is that the province needs to hear what their legislation and what their mandate has caused, not just in my city, but in others. And if there's lessons to be learned now for when other cities come online later, I'd rather it be us a little bit as the testing ground to get those things out of the way. So it is much more smoother for other cities as this rolls out.
Are we getting, I was just talking to a regional councillor here in the region of Waterloo about the amount of interference, if you will, or the amount of oversight that the province is putting on municipalities of late. Is this another example of that? I know it's not something that's been downloaded, but the province seems pretty keen on inserting itself into municipal affairs.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good thing to actually relate to. I would say that they are our parents. They are in charge of municipalities. It's the way it works. If I see a benefit to what they're trying to do, I will always praise. If there isn't, I will respectfully critique. But I think on this particular one, the two benefits I talked about at the beginning, the better for the environment, better finances for taxpayers at the property taxpayer level, that is really going to probably occur here. It's just the customer service part of this that's just not working out in the transition timeframe. Other issues, though, for another day, maybe, if you want me on for an hour, I'd be more than happy to talk about how some of the things that the province is doing, especially around housing, as an example, has really caused a lot of issues for municipalities across the province.
No, and I'm glad to hear that. And I appreciate you sharing, because I think it's instructive for folks here to understand that it's not just our immediately local councillors that are dealing with these things, mayors as well, of course. Before I let you go, Mayor Guthrie, one of the other areas that I know you have faced an increasing number of complaints about this year, and it's the same in the region of Waterloo and I'm sure across Ontario, is with the ability to effectively clear snow this winter. And I know you've got a value for money review coming up, I believe, in February.
Yes. So we have what's called the internal audit process, that a work plan comes forward every year in February that lays out sort of value for money audits, other audits that might be considered. And the recommendation that's in front of us, I think it's next week, is going to be to do a full winter maintenance value for money audit. And I can tell you, in talking to my council colleagues and every resident, they are looking forward to that. Does it mean changes that are going to happen for this winter? No. Let's be blunt. It's not going to happen. But they're going to take the time to really review what's working, what's maybe not, where can we excel in some other areas? Is there budgetary issues, different equipment we could get, et cetera, which an audit would kind of reveal for us. And then that can help inform the next year's budget moving into 2027. There's got to be grace here as well on this issue. Our operators are doing a very good job. They literally are out 24/7, a lot of them working overtime. The amount of snow we've got is just unbelievable. And, I did a ride along with a plow driver yesterday, and he told me that it really helps when he sees the thumbs up on the street or a wave on the street as they're going by. So maybe everyone can do that a little bit more because our staff, and I'm sure the staff in the region where you are at, are doing the best they possibly can, and a thumbs up can go a long way.
Mayor Guthrie, I appreciate your time on the show this morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Mike. See you, everybody.
Look forward to it. Cam Guthrie is the mayor of Guelph. He joins us to talk about the bumpy road towards the new way of collecting recyclables. And remember, we're a month and a bit away now? It's March for us when all of these new changes begin to take effect. There are benefits. It's going to save overall municipalities money and better for the environment. More can go into the blue boxes. But I do think this maybe is a cautionary tale for us here in the region of Waterloo. You heard what Mayor Guthrie said in Guelph when it comes to the problems that have been experienced, people's recycling bins not even being picked up. Imagine that, just adding to the woes on our roadsides at this time of year in a winter like this. But it gets skipped. Things aren't happening on the schedule as promised, et cetera. And when there's a problem, right? And how many times do we talk about this? When there's a problem, where do you go? You go to your municipal council, your municipal government, because that is the level of government that is most accessible to you. And of course, the city of Guelph in this case is saying, hang on a second here. This ain't our circus. The province has taken this over, or the not-for-profit Circular Materials has taken this over, but nobody living on Courtright Road in Guelph is going to pick up the phone and know to call Circular Materials, no matter how much information and promotion or advertising was provided them ahead of time. If the recycling's not being picked up, we are very well trained, aren't we? It's been this way for decades. If the recycling's not picked up, we are going to call the city. And now the city is dealing with this huge volume of complaints. It's costing time and thus money to the city when it's not even the city's problem to solve. And this caught my attention because, again, we are moving in that direction here in the region. Remember, we're going to be getting additional recycling bins because recycling is going to move to a bi-weekly collection. And we've already got those new bins for garbage and green bin collection, haven't we? And I don't know about you, but I am sick and ding-dang tired of shimmying those things around the end of the driveway so I can shovel around. But I have no place to put them other than the back end of the driveway. Do I like it? Not one little bit. The recycling for us remains in a room in the basement that's kind of a storage junk room. Okay, but now the 2 bins on the floor will multiply to 4. So there goes any available floor space in that room. And I always tell myself this when I'm taking what needs to be collected to the curb on collection day. I grumble about it. I wonder if you do too. But I remind myself, like, this is one of the greatest things about living in this modern world, isn't it? Once a week for your recyclables in your green bin, once every other week for the garbage. Yes, I'll grumble while I take it to the curb, but all I have to do is get it to the curb. And then by the time I get home from work that day, it has magically been disposed of, picked up and taken away by the municipality. It is a service we can honestly feel. We can touch it. I think it's a fabulous thing, but I still grumble when I have to get it to the curb. And now, additional blue bins for the bi-weekly collection, which is not going all that well in Guelph so far. Thank you very much. And oh yeah, that big old black bin and that big old green bin, in my case, in the driveway, because we are not blessed with a garage on our property. And there's no place to get it around back of the house. I am blessed with a nice deck. Had I been planning differently, knowing, I don't know, do you want your stuff just sitting there beside the deck? It's not exactly the most attractive thing. Beats the hell out of me. I'm just telling you that I too have misgivings when it comes to our new collection processes here in the region, which are starting in just over a month's time. And I think we have a cautionary tale from Guelph when it comes to how the recycling will be managed. Let's hope Guelph's experience, which has not been great, improves ours when it starts in March. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
The province needs to hear what their legislation and what their mandate has caused, not just in my city, but in others. And if there's lessons to be learned now for when other cities come online later, I'd rather it be us a little bit as the testing ground to get those things out of the way so it is much more smoother for other cities as this rolls out.
That is Guelph Mayor Cam Guthrie joining us this morning to talk about the frustration that he and residents of Guelph have experienced when it comes to the new way of doing recycling. We are moving into that way as well. That's right. The very community that pioneered the blue bin back in 1981. We are going to be moving to this not-for-profit, provincially organized circular materials collection system. I don't know. I'm making these things up as I go along. It is the not-for-profit circular materials. I don't know what they're officially calling this, but it was a provincial decision. It should save municipalities money, which is a good thing. It is better for the environment because more things can get into the bins. But what's been the struggle, not just in Guelph, but elsewhere, is getting the collection right, if you will. And I wanted to talk to Mayor Guthrie about that today because we are so close, a month or so away, from starting this here in our region. And I think if we're having trouble just down Highway 7, I worry a little bit about that. And Mike, my good buddy, I refer to him affectionately as Producer Mike because he's always sending ideas for the show. He lives in Guelph, listens to the show faithfully, and sends me an email to Mike at 570news.com. I'm not sure why we can't name the private company. Mike's right. It's the same company that is collecting at our curbside now, which is why I find the problems with this rollout or this transition so curious. It's the same ding-dang company that's already been collecting in our region. So, I don't understand how you were doing it before when the municipality was responsible for it, and now you're doing it still when it's going back to circular materials, but we can't seem to get it right. Anyway, Mike's email goes on to say, horrible service so far. Our blue bin goes out on Tuesday on a bi-weekly schedule, and we have had it sit at the curb and not picked up for 2 or 3 days. And that's where you kind of get into the game, don't you? Like, it's like a game of chicken. How long do you leave it out there? And what if you take it back in, you got another 2 weeks before you can get it emptied. Again, in this weather, I can only imagine the challenges that has presented. So, Mike, thanks for sharing your experience. Hopefully, these frustrations expressed publicly by the mayor of Guelph in an open letter last Friday will prompt the necessary changes. He said the CEO of Circular Materials has already reached out. They're organizing a meeting, and hopefully they can get to the bottom of this. Email from Sandy to Mike at 570news.com. My big question when it comes to these new bins is, where do we put the new big bins on garbage day in the winter and still be able to use our driveways? Well, Sandy, here's the thing, and this has already been pointed out. You are to leave it at the end of your driveway. So I don't know what yours is like. I feel like I must be really lucky in this regard, because what I do now on collection day in our neighborhood is I always put it out the night before. Not until it gets dark. I don't want that stuff just sitting there, all night long looking bad. We got curb appeal, don't you know? Anyway, I put it out, and I usually drive my car into the driveway and reverse out. But on the night before collection now, I back into the driveway. So just as to remind myself that those bins are at the end of the driveway when I'm pulling out the next morning. I can see them instead of just trying to pick them up in my mirrors. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. It's dark. I'm not always paying as much attention as I should be. And who expects to have a garbage bin or a blue bin in their driveway? Anyway, you are to leave it. And I have plenty of space. So I don't know if your end of the driveway, Sandy, is much narrower, but you are to leave these bins at the end of your driveway for the new automated trucks to put their automated arms, their mechanical arms down to pick them up. Leave them at the end of your driveway. Hopefully, you can navigate safely around that when you want to get your car in or out. But that's where you put the bins. The new big bins, make sure you get them out of your way, or don't drive into them when you're pulling out of your driveway. Walter is with us on the phone this morning. Good morning, Walter.
Good morning. Yeah, Mike, I can't believe all the moaning and groaning I'm hearing on the radio here this morning from all sides. I mean, like, when you have your bins and there's no room, because of the snow, take a little bit of time, shovel out a spot in the snowbank, and stand them in the snowbank.
They actually prefer that you leave it at the end of the driveway, Walter, but I've done that before too, shoveled out a little shelf in the snowbank.
Yeah. I mean,
You're a Guelph guy, aren't you?
No, I live in Cambridge.
Oh, I thought you were a Guelph guy. Okay.
No. It's just because I like the storm. That doesn't mean I'm in Guelph, Mike.
I didn't think anybody liked the storm outside of Guelph.
Well, that's obviously there in your part, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, man. That's what I would do. I have the same thing, and I don't put mine out until on the morning of, because I'm tired of all my neighbors and everything. They put them out, like the night before. They blow over. Animals get into them.
You got to have it out there by 7 o'clock, though, Walter. You're getting out by 7 a.m.?
Mike, I'm up at 5:30 every day.
Okay, buddy. I appreciate you. You're a good man. I'll bet you your pickup person really appreciates you, too. I'm going to get you to the 570 News Center for an update, and then let's talk about potential changes to the way we run our elections here in the region. Are we going to have an appointed regional chair later this year? One regional councillor is worried that we might, so he's putting forward an effort to stop that. We'll talk to him next on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Are we going to have an appointed regional chair later this year? or will we still elect a regional chair in this community? It is an election year, and just before we dive into that conversation, couple of emails quickly. First from Natasha to Mike at 570news.com. Thank you, Natasha. You are so right, of course. We do not use the same curbside collection provider as Guelph does. We used to, but now we have Miller Waste here in the region of Waterloo. So hopefully they don't experience any of the same concerns that Guelph is currently experiencing when it comes to the new way of doing recycling. We used to use the same one, but we don't anymore. Miller Waste is in charge of ours. And thank you, Natasha, for the reminder on that. And Jim sends me an email to Mike at 570news.com. And I know Jim knows a thing or two about clearing snow as a private contractor and this salt shortage that currently exists. And Jim points out that alternatives involve shipping from overseas, offloading at ports, trucking to cities, et cetera, et cetera. And I get all of that. So when will we see salt was my question, Jim writes. I'm being told 3 to 4 weeks minimum if it doesn't snow. And this is, again, all I'm saying. When we go back to the identification of the salt shortage, we've been hearing about it for several weeks. I would like to think that several weeks ago, when we started talking about the salt shortage, did we try to find other sources of salt, and then imminently that salt would be arriving, right? You see how that works? You see how we plan and we prepare and then we execute a good plan to fix a problem? That was my thinking on that. But if you're only starting today, 3 to 4 more weeks from now, it's almost going to be March. But I'll just leave that over there. Let's get back to the matter at hand as we begin our next conversation, and that is around the idea of not having an elected regional chair later this year, but an appointed chair instead. You may recall the rumblings that were coming out, I don't know, a month or two ago, that the provincial government had its eyes on our regional government here in Waterloo region, as it has had its eyes on York region, Niagara region, etc. And the rumor was that instead of electing regional councillors, they would be eliminated completely, and only mayors, elected mayors, would sit on a newly created regional council. The mayors already do sit on regional council, and the chair's position would be appointed by the province instead of elected by you and me. And that does not sit well at all with regional councillor Doug Craig, who joins us this morning to talk about a motion that he intends to bring forward to keep the regional chair's position an elected position as opposed to an appointed one. So, Doug, what is the motivation behind this motion?
Well, the motivation is to make it accountable. I want an elected chair who is accountable to the people of the region of Waterloo, not an appointed chair who's accountable to Queen's Park. And that's the major difference. And I think now, as a regional council, as a regional community, we need to start talking about these things and letting Queen's Park and our MPPs know that this consideration for election is more important than appointments.
We have been hearing some rumblings to this effect that there might be changes coming to regional council. What are you hearing about possibilities of change in this being an election year?
Well, I think they're going to be very cautious about what they're doing for once. But I think it's all speculation at this point. We've all heard different rumors. We all want to believe what we want to believe. But there has never been a proper review done of the region of Waterloo to determine what is the best outcomes for elections or for reorganization.
That review wouldn't have been done in the Ken Sealing, Michael Fenn report?
Well, it might have been done, but it was like a one-day drop-in, let's hear from people, and then they disappeared. That's not how you do a review. A review is done by bringing people in to look at the overall organization, to talk to all the politicians in the region, and to come up with a summary of reports on all the various aspects of regional government. And then you make decisions. And I'm sort of emphasizing that because that was done in 1979 by the Palmer Commission review. They came in for a full year, reviewed everything, and talked to everybody. That's how you do a proper review.
Sure. And that, of course, was when our regional government was very much in its infancy back in 79. So 47 odd years later, Doug, is it time for another review? Is this still working the way that it should?
Well, I think it's working fairly well, but I think I'm not adverse to a full review that talks to all the politicians, that has numerous public meetings, that examines all aspects of regional government by experts coming in and then coming up with conclusions and recommendations. I'm not adverse to that, but that's not what they're doing. They have one-day drive-by committee coming into the region saying, what do you think? That's not a review. Has
that committee already been here?
Well, it was here a year and a half ago in Kitchener, and they had an open house with a committee of MPPs that had come here to talk about what do you think. And again, that's not a proper review.
Yes, I recall that happening now. And I just wonder, from your experience, Doug, you've been on both sides of this, if you will, as a longtime mayor in Cambridge, which granted you a seat on regional council, of course, and now as a regional councillor. How do you see our two levels of government working together?
Well, I think they work fairly well. And I think that that has been proven over the years with the fact that the region of Waterloo is a go-to place in terms of employment, in terms of industry, in terms of commerce, things that have happened. Now, there always are hiccups, as we're now experiencing. But the point being, over the years, region of Waterloo is an example to the country and to the province of a prosperous, well-run area.
Would you be opposed to change on regional council if the position of chair was remained elected? So maybe a different makeup of council, but the chair is elected as opposed to appointed.
I think what we need to do, and I've always advocated, is to go back to what they call the double direct, where in fact in Cambridge, as an example, you're elected across the city, but you sit on city council and you also sit on regional council. And I think that system brings a greater connection, a greater understanding between the two levels of government when you have regional councillors sitting on local council.
This is not the first time that you and I have had a very similar conversation around the provincial government showing a rather keen interest in what's going on municipally. Why do you suppose that is? What is Doug Ford's fascination with municipal government?
Well, he was a city councillor in Toronto, and I think that, and of course his brother was the mayor. There's a long history of him being involved in municipal government, and I think that brings him into what he has been doing. I mean, he stepped into the municipal elections in 2018 in Toronto and got rid of half the wards. You know, and a lot of the strong mayor powers, all of those things are emanating from an individual who has a background in municipal government.
Something that you and I have also talked about on numerous occasions over the years is the need for, or in my opinion, the lack of need for two levels of local government. Would you support a single-tier municipal government?
No, not at all. I think that the three municipalities are vibrant. They each offer their residents different outcomes in terms of lifestyles. They benchmark against each other in terms of budgets, bylaws, and things they are doing. They're competitive within the region, and I think it's healthy. You have one-tier government. What you're doing is you're eliminating access into government by getting rid of politicians who are the doors to local democracy.
What if that one tier was just the municipal governments then and we got rid of the region?
Well, that's a possibility, but you got to be careful here what you're doing. Are you going to have a service board that's non-elected, running water, sewer, all that sort of thing? So you got to be careful here what you're suggesting.
It is an election year, as we mentioned at the beginning, and I've heard mixed things, Doug, to be honest, about initially. You know, Premier Ford in the province was hell-bent on making changes here. I've heard they're starting to walk back from that a little bit. Do you have any insight as to what might happen?
Well, my latest rumors, and you always hear these things as you get close to election, is they are walking it back. I think there's no question about that. So we'll wait and see. But I think, if anything, I want our local MPPs to know that we need to elect a regional chair. We need to elect a regional chair that's accountable to the people, not Queen's Park.
Doug, I appreciate your time on the show, as always. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure, sir.
Doug Craig is a regional councillor who represents Cambridge, obviously spent considerable time as the mayor of Cambridge as well, which brought him a seat on regional council, which would continue if he were still the mayor. So Jan Liggett currently holds that mayoral seat for Cambridge on regional council, and that would continue if rumored changes were to be implemented here in the region of Waterloo ahead of this October's election. Our regional council could become a council made up of only the mayors that are elected in the cities and the townships, and then the regional chair's position would be an appointed position. Whether or not the province has the appetite to move forward with this remains to be seen. It sounds like that appetite is softening in recent weeks. So it is likely that our regional government will remain intact, exactly as we've come to know it over these last many decades, when October the 27th, the day after the election, rolls around. Who is on that council? I guess that will be up to you, won't it, when you cast your vote on October the 26th. But as noble as the intention is, and I would agree, listen, you know that I have long been a proponent of one tier of local government. I think that we have an archaic system that is in dire need of modernization. That being said, I do not support in any way the appointment of a regional chair. That should be an elected position. There's no question about that. Having said that, what I want in that regard, or what I think in that regard, and Doug Craig's motion that he will be tabling in that regard, will have next to no influence on the provincial government. In my opinion, I think if the provincial government wants to move forward with an appointed chair and changing the way that our regional council operates, then the province will do that, no matter what Doug Craig or Mike Farwell has to say about it. But I don't think any of us should be comfortable, quite frankly, in a world where we have an appointed position. The top political job in this region, an appointed position, I don't think that's a direction we want to be heading. Are you interested at all? Do you have any appetite for change at the municipal government level, especially the region? Is it time to go to one level of government? Is it time to change the way that regional government is structured? Always happy to get your thoughts on the Mike Farwell Show. Phone lines are open to you on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Well, I think they're going to be very cautious about what they're doing for once, but I think it's all speculation at this point. We've all heard different rumors. We all want to believe what we want to believe, but there has never been a proper review done of the region of Waterloo to determine what is the best outcomes for elections or reorganization.
Doug Craig is a regional councillor representing Cambridge. He's going to bring forward a motion to regional council asking that the region advocate to the province that the regional chair's position remain an elected one as opposed to an appointed one. The rumors are out there that our regional government could become comprised of the mayors that get elected in our 3 cities and 4 townships, no regional councillors, which would really simplify our election ballot come October, and the chair's position would be appointed. Just rumors. And if it were to come to pass, I would just say this again. We get what we deserve. We've had ample opportunity. There have been many efforts made over the years to create a better system of local governance, and we have continued to resist those efforts. In my opinion, we've done so because we wanted to protect our own political interests, our own jobs, our own skins, however you want to describe it. And now, if the province should come in and do something, well, shame on us for not doing something ourselves and creating our own solution many, many years ago. But nonetheless, any appetite on your part for some sort of change at the regional government level? Bernie is on the phone with us. Good morning, Bernie.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good.
Good.
I mean, if you talk to 20 people, you'll get 20 different answers to your dilemma, to our dilemma.
Maybe.
And I don't have one other than, if you recall what happened in Toronto, I'm going to the extreme end here. If you have to recall what happened in Toronto 8 years ago, when they went from 47 councillors to 24 or 25, what he did is he essentially matched up the provincial and the federal ridings to become wards in the city. So you have 24 or 25 city councillors, there are 25 MPPs, and there are 25 MPs that occupy that represent the same number of people. So if you think of it on that end, at the extreme end, we could have one municipality, 5 councillors, because that's how many ridings we have, and 1 mayor. So, I mean, I guess we need to be careful what we ask for, and I'm kind of with you, is the 7 municipalities or the 7 local governments need to get together and decide really what's best for us and put that forward for the provincial government to gnaw on. I think Doug Ford was only testing the waters, as Doug Craig mentioned several months ago when he floated the idea of change here. I don't think it's going to happen for this election, but I think it is a warning, or it is a signal that we need to really seriously, in 2026 now, decide what it is, what kind of government structure we want for our 700,000 people.
Bernie, great insight. Really appreciate your call today. Thanks for weighing in.
Okay, take care.
It's a really, ask 20 people, and you're likely to get those 20 different answers that Bernie alludes to. And again, this idea that we should, if this isn't reason enough for us collectively to decide for ourselves what the future of governance in this community looks like, well, then I don't know what we're doing here, because we're just going to allow for somebody else to decide for us what the future of governance looks like in this region. And I don't love that. I really don't. And listen, even though I'm pro one tier of local government, doesn't mean that I'll kick my feet or stomp my feet and complain forever that I didn't get it my way. I just think we should have the conversation here. We really should determine for ourselves what this looks like. And frankly, anything other than a one-tier system, I can't imagine why we would want to continue in this way. But to Bernie's point, maybe this is just the warning sign. Maybe not this time, but then the next time. It's interesting that he made reference to what happened 8 years ago when Doug Ford was first elected premier in Toronto, because slash that council in half. I worked in Toronto as a news reporter for the first time not long after Toronto had been amalgamated. All of its former little hamlets, North York and East York and Etobicoke, et cetera, brought under the banner of the city of Toronto, the mega city, we called it back then. And yeah, there were people still fiercely protecting their own neighborhoods and communities, but is Toronto still functioning today? Yes. We could survive an amalgamation. We really could. Mary, good morning.
Hi. I don't have much time, do I?
About 60 seconds.
Oh, very, very, very good. Happy Tuesday. And you are a big proponent, and you have said it before, that we don't need all these little places like townships and this and that.
Well, no, not that we don't need them. Just we have 59 municipal politicians.
Okay, I said that wrongly, and I agree with you. We have way too many people that are being paid. It's overblown.
Yes.
Is it 59?
So Mary, I got to run to get to news, but yes, it's 59 elected councillors across this region. 59. And then you're right. When you think of 7 different municipalities plus the regional government, there are 8 chief administrative officers in this region. There are 8 communications departments, planning departments. Well, we don't have planning at the region anymore, but you get the point. There are all of these for 700,000 people. Let's just bring them together, keep the best of the best, and let's build something really efficient here, or just keep doing it the way we've been doing it, because that always works out really well in the end, doesn't it? This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It has become an annual event on this show, and I, for one, am here for it. It is Access to Necessities, period, an annual campaign, and the founders of the campaign join me in studio again. The annual event continues. Michaela Correa is with us this morning. Good morning, Michaela.
Good morning.
And Marissa Warner here as well. Good morning to you, Marissa.
Hello, Mike.
You want to take me back to the beginning of this? How did it all get started?
Feels like it's been
a really long
time. This is year 6 for us of doing the campaign. So the first one, February 2021. A few months before then, I was several months into my real estate career, and I thought real estate's such a great platform. Any self-employed business gives you your own platform to maybe connect with the community. And I thought, I want to do something, but I want to find a niche that I feel like is not being addressed. And maybe that's menstrual products. And I put some feelers out into the community to different organizations. And I said, is this something you guys could use? If I collected some products and did some donations, would that be of benefit to you? And they said, absolutely. So we ran it year 1, and it was a really great success. And that was me reaching out to family, friends, colleagues, clients, just kind of my wheelhouse of people. And then since then, it's just gotten bigger. We've taken it to social media to really connect with people outside of the region. And we brought in community partners in the last couple of years. And those are local businesses that house a donation bin for us for the month of February, where people can drop off products. And this is year 2 of GoFundMe. Mm-hmm. So we've just been continuing to kind of nurture and grow it over the last several years.
And if I recall, Marissa, there might have been some wine involved in the early times.
What?
But is this just something where Michaela calls you up and you're like, yes, this is, I'm jumping right on board with this?
Essentially, like it was Michaela's brainchild, right? Like that was your baby.
Yeah.
And if year 1, you just needed help.
Yeah, I just thought I could really use someone to help me count and organize and distribute, because I had like 10,000 menstrual products in my living room. And I was like, I could use a friend to just kind of help me organize and count. And it just flowed naturally from there. It was a no-brainer to have you join on.
Right. Yeah. And I think I somewhat inserted myself.
You did.
Yeah.
But that's why we love you.
Right. Sometimes you just see it and say, okay, you need a little help, girl.
Yeah.
I will be there with a coffee to start.
Yeah.
And then we'll expand to what that might be later on.
Yeah.
And it honestly has grown and blossomed in a very natural way.
Yeah.
And we try to take cues also from the community to see what the need is and what tweaks we can make. And I think we're both really good at sitting back year over year and looking at what little nuances we can change or improve or just tweak in whatever way to suit the ongoing need, because that does evolve and change as things go on and needs change and financial abilities might change and that kind of thing. So it's been very natural that way.
Yeah.
So from that first year, Michaela, with 10,000 menstrual products in your living room, and this is now into a 6th year. I mean, it's obviously, there's a reason it continues to go. How do you coordinate now? Do you have extra space? Like, how are you managing all of this?
We have a pretty good system in place. Doing it 1 month a year definitely helps with the logistics of it, because we know exactly when it's happening.
For the donation campaign.
For donations, yes. So everything is collected and stored at my house, in my basement. It's very simple. I have a little bit of space and I use it. When we're done the campaign at the end of February, we collect everything. Now we add the GoFundMe portion where we take the funds, we do a final shop, we count and organize, and then we usually do a distribution pretty early in March. So we give everyone as much as they can handle in terms of storage. And then I keep any excess in my home, stored in my basement, and we just continue to provide them with products throughout the rest of the year as needed.
How, Marissa, did the GoFundMe get added to this a couple of years ago?
So I would say 2 years ago, we were chatting a little bit. When we brought it to social media, the audience naturally grew because the reach grows. And as you know, Mike, when you put it out there in any kind of media form, it kind of grows its own legs in a way. And we knew that there were people that wanted to support us that weren't local. And it's not always logistically easy for people to donate physical products to us. So after our campaign 2 years ago, we started kind of kicking around the idea of how we can have a platform for people to contribute in a monetary way, knowing that all the proceeds from that will go directly into buying the products that are most requested. Like we usually try to now use that funds to backfill any gaps that we might have, because different organizations do have preferences of what they want to receive from us throughout the year. So last year it was extremely successful. So we raised just with the GoFundMe $2,100, which to translate that into product and how much that would buy, 500?
About 500 individual products. Yeah.
So, which was fantastic. And those 500 products were really to the core issues that we needed to backfill or address that we didn't get from the donation campaign for whatever reason. So yeah, it was very successful and something we were really proud of.
Yeah.
It's a great way to fill those gaps, to backfill as you described it, Marissa. I love that idea. And of course, when you are putting it out there on a social media platform, the internet knows no borders, right?
Yeah.
So if you've got people in other parts of the province, the country that want to make a donation that way, absolutely fantastic.
The other thing actually too, Mike, to add to that is something that I didn't think of with the GoFundMe that surprised me in a way, but made sense once it happened, was the GoFundMe actually allowed local businesses to donate in a more meaningful way. The GoFundMe, rather than collecting physical products, it was as though local businesses,
they were looking for that outlet, I think.
Yes.
It works well for them.
And it's just it's an easier way to get involved for them. So that was a surprise, but once, I think in hindsight, it kind of made sense, but it was a really nice surprise seeing that.
So how can folks get involved this year?
Well, there's a good handful of ways. So just fresh off the GoFundMe conversation, we have a GoFundMe. If you go to GoFundMe's page, you just have to look up Access to Necessities, period. And there we are. There's a picture of me holding a box of products. Everything's all pink. You'll see that we were at $21.95 from last year, and you can just continue to donate, and hopefully we continue to raise our thresholds. We have 7 community partners this year that are local businesses where people can go by during their respective business hours and drop products off. I'm going to list them. You make sure I don't miss anyone.
Yeah.
So we have the Womb in Guelph. We have Elmira Door and Trim. We have Encompass Health and Wellness. We have Cove Collective. We have StoneX in Cambridge. Thank you. We have Champagne Insurance and Bonita Medical Aesthetics in St. Jacobs. So we have a good spread. Waterloo Region, Elmira, St. Jacobs, Guelph. And then third is kind of the OG donation form, which is you can reach out to us and we will drive to your house, we will drive to your business, and we will pick up the products for you and gather them until the end of the campaign.
Excellent. Where can we find you on social media for this?
So Instagram is probably best. That's where we are most, as is most of the world. My handle is @_ Michaela Correa. That's my real estate page. So that's an easy place to DM or comment to get in touch with me. And then, of course, you're on Instagram as well.
I am, yeah. It's through my business, The Home Narrative, and I have a landing page on my website too, to speak to the campaign. But if you reach out to either of us and throughout the donation campaign, we do tag Mike and you do reshare that as well. So in the event that people are looking for us and can't find us for whatever reason, but can find you, Mike, I'm sure you can point them in the right direction.
Send them our way, okay?
Yes, happy to carry this conversation onto the usual social media channels @Farwell_WR. Which agencies end up benefiting, Michaela?
Oh, goodness, several organizations. And the interesting thing is it started out with just 2 local women's shelters. And as I continued to reach out, the need, I just was flooded with yeses. We could use the help. So we have donated to St. Mary's. We've donated to Starling, which was formerly Luther Wood, the Shore Center, the Sexual Assault Center of Waterloo Region, Kind Minds, the YMCA of Three Rivers, 519 Collective in Cambridge, Food Bank. Food Bank's a great one because you can get a lot of distribution that way because there's so many different populations that visit the food bank. And anyone else that reaches out, we're happy to add them to the list. But those have been groups that we've donated to every year and have continued to kind of fill them up.
I love the very grassroots nature of this, right? Like, Michaela, you mentioned at the beginning that, you know, in the industry that you work in, real estate, with the platform that it provides you, you know, and you thought maybe there's this gap that I could fill. Marissa, here we are 6 years later. Do you ever think that we'd still be like, I mean, and it just keeps growing.
It does.
Yeah.
Did I think we'd still be here? I would say yes, just because anything, Michaela.
I'm a little tenacious.
Yeah, you're very determined, so it doesn't shock me. I think I'm more surprised of like how many people we've been able to help and people we've been able to connect with and the impact in the community. I think it's just grown in a way that it's just a lot more impressive than I think it could ever have got to. It doesn't surprise me that it's grown and it still is here. It's just the growth.
Yeah,
I think
it was just a little idea, and it's done a lot for the community, and we're just so happy about that.
Absolutely, and so you should be. It's a great gap to be filled, and I know there are some others working in the space, but it doesn't get talked about an awful lot. Period poverty, as we often refer to it as, a great way to fill that gap. So the campaign is called Access to Necessities, period. You can look that up on GoFundMe. You can find _ Michaela Correa, and you can find the home narrative for Marissa. Ladies, keep up the great work. I look forward to, we're going to do an update to see how you did at the end of the campaign again, okay?
Yeah, we'll give you the full rundown of how it went.
All right. And Marissa, tell the boys when they get to a hockey game soon, like, just come on up to the top of that blue section and say hi sometime, okay?
You make little boys' dreams come true when it comes to that broadcasting.
Thank you both very much for being here this morning. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Mike.
Awesome.
Michaela Correa and Marissa Warner. Access to Necessities, period, is the campaign. Kicks off again in February, and you can support again this year as it's into its 6th year of closing that gap in our community. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I love the chance to share some of those feel-good stories and the grassroots nature of Access to Necessities, period, now into a 6th year. Again, you can find it on GoFundMe. Keep your eyes on my Instagram at Farwell_WR. I will share there as the campaign gets underway in about a week's time. But just thought they would use their platform, Michaela and Marissa, their platforms, through the work that they do in real estate to see if they could close a gap, a much-needed gap in our community when it comes to the collection of and then distribution of menstrual products. And it's been going gangbusters ever since, and I'm glad we can help to spread the word again this year. That might in and of itself be enough to qualify for our Not Everybody is a Jackwagon story today. But I'm gonna get you another one of those before 11, I promise. In the next 5 minutes, in fact, your reminder that not everyone is a jackwagon. But we haven't dove into the Farwell report in too long, I think. So let's do that right now. The news that you didn't know you could use. For the first time in years, the overall number of study and work permit holders in Canada has decreased year over year. That's because of tightening immigration regulations in the country, of course, which continue to impact temporary residents. But let the numbers sink in. Between 2024 and 2025, Canada saw a net decrease of almost 15,000 temporary residents, with the greatest reductions coming from the country's largest metropolitan areas. The largest decreases in non-permanent residents came in Toronto, Vancouver, and right here in the region of Waterloo, where we saw a decrease of more than 7,300 temporary residents between 2024 and 2025. You may remember that our federal government under Mark Carney asked a panel of experts to help find ways to make the public service more productive. Well, the 6-member board was assembled last fall, and it returned with 19 recommendations, most of which were adopted. Those include advances in artificial intelligence that promote efficiency and more closely align with the government align the government with the private sector, academic and nonprofit sectors as well. But one glaring recommendation that the feds ignored was a suggestion to conduct performance reviews within a year of an employee's hiring or promotion, setting out a clear plan to improve performance and publicizing the number of public servants who are dismissed or considered to be underperforming. Because why would we need to know stuff like that, right? The federal government has been urged for years to make it easier to dismiss underperforming employees, but it has not significantly reformed its policies, with some experts saying that the bar for firing people for poor performance or bad conduct is too high within the federal civil service. The experts say you cannot improve productivity over time if you are not willing to fire poor performing employees. Anyone who has ever been driving around George Street in the Galt area of Cambridge knows how confusing that road gets around the library and the Cenotaph, basically between North and South Square roads, right? There are stop signs there, but there are huge gaps between these stop signs. And now the region wants to make some improvements there. They want to remove the stop signs and install a pedestrian crossover, which would include pavement markings and rectangular rapid flashing beacons advising motorists that they have to stop and yield the right of way to anyone crossing the road. Because it's like crossing a river there in some ways. It's such a wide open space, big gaps between those stop signs. Designing and installing the crossover is expected to cost about $250,000. That will be funded through the region's Development Charges Reserve Fund for roads. And I want to let you know that the monkeys are on the loose in St. Louis. I just bring you the news that you didn't know you could use, okay? But the monkeys are on the loose in St. Louis. And AI is making it hard to capture them. Wildlife officials say people have reported catching the monkeys, even posting AI-generated images to prove their claims. Now, it's unclear who owns the monkeys, how they got loose, or exactly how many there are. And wildlife officials think it's unlikely anyone will come forward to claim them because, you see, it's illegal to own monkeys in St. Louis. You can own a monkey in Kansas City, Missouri, but you cannot. I'm serious about that. You can in Kansas City, Missouri, but you cannot in St. Louis. I am not monkeying around about this, but the illegal monkeys in St. Louis are really driving officials bananas. The monkeys simply can't be caught. But have they looked everywhere? I mean, all I know is that if I was a primate on the loose for the first time in a long time, the first place I would head is to the monkey bar. It's the news that you didn't know you could use on the Farwell Report. This is one I want you to remember for the rest of the day. Tell a friend, because not everyone, contrary to popular opinion sometimes, not everyone is a jackwagon. To some, it just looked like a basin of water filled with garbage, but to others, it looked like potential. The Peter Street Basin in Toronto was, I don't know how to describe it to you. It was gross, okay? It was this a pool of water filled with garbage, but it also provided an entry point to Lake Ontario. So, University of Toronto professor Steve Mann decided to take matters into his own hands. Literally.
The thing is, there's really nowhere else to get in the water. But there was so much garbage in that basin that you could not even see the water. I'd go down there like 2 or 3, sometimes 4 times a week, and just pull out garbage bag after bag. Surprisingly, people were really behind it, and we got a whole bunch of volunteers.
Bag after bag of garbage he removed from the Peter Street Basin all by himself, and some of those volunteers who were inspired were Mann's students who used the basin and its cleanup as a learning opportunity.
It's just been really great to get that kind of hands-on experience working on technology that helps people connect to nature and can help make the world a better place. It's a nice place for us to work, to do our research, and then it's appreciated. We can tell by the people that live there too.
And now the Peter Street Basin in Toronto is so clean, Professor Steve Mann uses it as a swimming hole. He gets right in there, goggles and everything. I don't know that I'd have that kind of courage, but just remember, not everybody is a jackwagon. Some people will see garbage in the Peter Street Basin and clean it up by themselves. I'm going to get you an update from the 570 News Center. And then a former FBI executive joins us to talk about the latest ICE shooting in Minneapolis. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
This is where today's topics turn into today's talking points. It's local and it's Democratic radio at its finest. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
If it was the intention of Donald Trump to make an example of Minnesota, then I'm damn proud of the example that the world's seeing. We believe in law and order in this state. We believe in peace. And we believe that Donald Trump needs to pull these 3,000 untrained agents out of Minnesota before they kill another person. And we're up here telling another story of a Minnesotan just trying to live their life without the interference. You're allowed to decide at any point that you're not with this anymore. If you voted for this administration, heck, even if you thought Operation Metro Surge was a good idea, sounded like the thing to do a month ago, you're still allowed to look at what's happening here in Minnesota and say, this isn't what I voted for and this isn't what I want. We're no longer having a political debate, we're having a moral debate.
The Mike Farwell Show continues
on 570 News Radio.
And that is Minnesota Governor Tim Walz on the heels of another shooting by ICE agents in Minneapolis. For perspective on this, we're joined this morning by Lauren Anderson, who's a former FBI executive, a fellow at the Geneva Center for Security Policy, and the co-host of the Steady State Sentinel podcast. Lauren, it's great to get your perspective. Thank you very much for making time for the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
I want to talk a little bit or dive a little bit deeper into what Governor Walz said about ICE agents. And these agents have been described as characterized as law enforcement, almost police-like officials. Is that the case? Is that what an ICE agent is?
To give you a little bit of context, over the course of my 29 years with the FBI, I, among other jobs, ran the Joint Terrorism Task Force in New York. And in that capacity, I had ICE and CBP agents assigned to the Joint Terrorism Task Force. So I work with them on a daily basis. The ICE agents are, in fact, in a different category. Without getting too complex for your listeners, the category that the FBI is in and other federal law enforcement is a more sophisticated criminal investigator. There are more requirements to be hired for their job, and there's much more in-depth training, and there are material differences. The ICE agents and CBP are hired in a different category, and they certainly receive training, but the requirements for being hired for the job, the level of sophistication of the training is not the same. Where things are the same, and this is important, is that everybody is taught de-escalation tactics. Everybody is taught when to use, when not to use deadly force, and what is appropriate in crowd situations. So that is something that is standard across the federal government, despite some of those other differences.
So how does the training then that you have experience with, Lauren, match or differ from what we are seeing in the actions of these ICE agents in the recent shootings?
Well, there are dramatic differences. I was also on the SWAT team in the FBI for a while, early part of my career, so I had additional tactical training. Some of the things that we're seeing where there are remarkable differences, and I will list them. They're not necessarily in priority order, but I will list them. First, you don't put hands on people. That is the quickest way to escalate a situation. So what we saw in the instance of both the unfortunate murders that have happened, and most recently with Alex Preddy, is you see appears to be CBP officer shoving a woman who was with Preddy. That's number one. You don't put hands on somebody. Number two, you have to assess the situation and use your best judgment as to whether or not there's a threat. And the use of additional things like pepper spray, tear gas is another layer. when we were taught these things, and we were also taught constant training about, do you take action? What action do you take? Do you take deadly force? Do you use some other intermediary? The first thing we all have that we're supposed to use is our voice. We give commands. We say, step back, or get out of the car, or turn the car off, or step away. That's the very first thing that should be done. And while we haven't heard all of the audio from the two events in Minnesota, what we do know is there was a lot of hollering, but I never heard clear commands in either situation. So that's absolutely one thing that's wrong. And a gang of people like that around anybody is also never good, because you have to know what's going on. You have to know where all your partners are. When I was on the SWAT team and even going on arrests as a regular FBI agent, you had to have an awareness of where every other single person was around you. And another part of the training is never have another human being in between you and your weapon that you might be pointing at somebody else. So there's a couple of differences there. And there was clearly, from my trained eye looking in, and again, we are still missing some audio, we are still missing some information, it was complete chaos on the part of the law enforcement officers, and that's not supposed to happen. They should be communicating clearly with one another, and everybody should have a clear role of what they're doing in any given situation. And in most federal law enforcement or most police departments, that is something that is trained over and over and over again throughout the course of your career.
We heard Governor Walz say in the clip that we played to begin this conversation, Lauren, that this is no longer a political issue, it's a moral issue. What is it that we are witnessing? What is being laid bare in Minnesota right now in the context of America as a whole?
I happen to agree with the governor. I think it's both a political and a moral issue, but it's very, very significant. We rely in law enforcement, and obviously I'm former law enforcement, but we rely on trust. We rely on a compact that we have with our communities that we serve, and that we are fair and open and honest with them, and there's two-way communication. And unfortunately, what we're seeing unfold here, that is not the case. That is not the case at all. And when you look at that and you look at the failure to engage, one thing I thought was really interesting is there was a clip over the weekend of the engagement of Minnesota police officers. I don't know if they were your BCA or what, at the airport, and they were trying to move protesters. How they did that was almost kind of a masterclass from the clip I saw in what we saw on the streets when Alex Preddy was shot. That is, they were tapping somebody on the shoulder, they were down talking to them at their level, calmly, helping them lift up and move away. That's what you want to see. And it is a moral issue because we're injecting politics and injecting judgments in a way that is inappropriate. Something that troubles me and that you may not be aware of, and I'd love to share with you and your listeners, is that within the FBI since 1925 has had jurisdiction for assault on a federal officer, and that is routine. Tangentially, or accompanying that, is the fact that there is, since the 1964 civil rights statute, when there's been an assault by or involving a federal officer, a companion civil rights case is opened under what we call color of law, which means that police officers, others in certain categories, have an extra responsibility, extra duty of care when they engage so they are not violating people's rights. Those two things are really important because that's one of the pieces that appears to have been peeled away by ICE, which undermines our very civil rights. And by choosing to take that case, we have what appears to be the resignation of the FBI supervisor after the Renee Good shooting because they were directing her not to open that civil rights case. This is important, and so are the labels being used. Within the FBI, that category of investigation is handled in the criminal division. What is happening in this administration, and Secretary Noem has said this, Director Patel has said this, and I take strong issue with it, is they are immediately calling these people domestic terrorists without a factual basis to make that assertion. And within the FBI, I have heard anecdotally from onboard personnel that they have taken that classification of investigation and moved it to the terrorism side of the house. That is a huge statement It has spent almost 100 years in one area, and now they're moving it to domestic terrorism. And to me, that is also undermining trust. It's putting labels, and it is political, but it also goes to the moral, because we're making judgments on human beings and taking lives in a way that is inconsistent with who we are as a nation.
What needs to happen now, Lauren, to become more consistent with who we all know you are as a nation? What needs to happen next?
Couple of things. First, there has to be dialogue. There has to be healing within the communities. I know from agents that I've talked to in the FBI that they are deeply troubled by what they've seen unfold in Minnesota. They have had good relationships with their fellow law enforcement officers within the community there, and that trust has been ruptured. And it's been ruptured through nothing that they did. And I think that we need to take steps to start listening to each other, talking to each other. One of the podcast episodes that we recently did on the steady state, we talked about the idea that too often people look at the government as a monolith, and they look at a function. They forget there's a person behind there. And that's really important, because we are all people, and there's got to be a better dialogue. We also need our leaders to dial the rhetoric down, because they are our leaders. And it's in all of our interests to see our leaders succeed in the positions they were elected to. But when they are not acting in a way that's consistent with that, I think it's incumbent on every citizen to step forward, to make their views known, and to work within their community in a nonviolent way to bring this down. That's critical. And I lived in Wisconsin for a while. I appreciate the upper Midwest sentiment and how people are, and they're great people. And I think this would be my perfect utopia situation. They recognize this is a problem. They create a community discussion in Minneapolis at which you have leadership from the federal government, leadership from local and state government, civic leaders, and the community. Bring them in and talk through this. Yes, you don't have to get into the specifics of the investigation, because it needs to unroll in an objective manner. But in the perfect world, you have that dialogue. You try and find a way forward, because this is only going to get worse. I was talking with a colleague in the steady state, and we both are of the opinion that what happened to Alex Preddy, which was a homicide by any evaluation, is that it's a flashpoint. And I hope that it's a turning point in the way that we move forward. Our immigration system is broken. We all know that. It has to be dealt with, but it has to be dealt with humanely. It has to be dealt with respect for the rule of law, respect for the Constitution, and respect for each other as human beings. And that's not what we're seeing.
That is brilliantly stated. Love the work you're doing at the Steady State, Lauren, and I'm so appreciative of your time on our show this morning. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Lauren Anderson joining us. Lauren has 29 years of experience with the FBI, led SWAT teams as well. She's a fellow at the Geneva Center for Security Policy, and she's the co-host of the Steady State Sentinel podcast. A homicide by any evaluation. I think that we understand here that there is a problem with immigration in the United States. Heck, we've documented our own problems with immigration here in Canada. There are people who are in the United States and Canada illegally, and some of those people are doing really awful things. We want them to be investigated, arrested, prosecuted, deported, if that's the case, whatever we have available to us under the rule of law, at the extent of the law. We want to see these things carried to their conclusion. But what none of us wants is what we have been bearing witness to of late in Minneapolis, where innocent people, protesters perhaps, people with cell phones recording the goings on, end up being shot dead in pursuit of this fix, of this repair to a broken immigration system. This can't be the way that we want to see justice carried out. This does not equal. Tough on immigration does not equal armed, masked, I will use the word again, thugs on the streets, rounding people up and shooting them in the back. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
You don't put hands on people. That is the quickest way to escalate a situation. You have to assess the situation and use your best judgment as to whether or not there's a threat. And the use of additional things like pepper spray, tear gas is another layer. As a regular FBI agent, you had to have an awareness of where every other single person was around you. And another part of the training is never have another human being in between you and your weapon that you might be pointing at somebody else.
That is Lauren Anderson, a former FBI executive, a fellow with the Geneva Center for Security Policy, and the co-host of the Steady State Sentinel podcast, joining us to talk about ICE agents and their work to date in Minneapolis. A homicide by any evaluation is what Ms. Anderson called the shooting on the weekend of Alex Preddy. Phone lines are always open to you on this show for conversation at 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Darren, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Okay, under President Obama, in 8 years, he deported 3.1 million people. In Trump's first 4-year term, he deported about 920,000 people. The difference is people are protesting every single one of Trump's things. I almost fell down laughing when Tim Walz said, people shouldn't be killed just trying to live their lives. Alex Preddy went to a protest with a gun. Okay, that's questionable. Once the police have, Mike, you grew up with watching the TV shows, police freeze. If you have a gun, what do these lefties think that the police have to fight every single person?
Darren, wait. First of all,
sure.
Define police for me.
Define police?
Yeah. Did you see? Did you see any police when Alex Preddy was shot?
Law enforcement. Oh, if it's semantics, so it's a law enforcement. They're law enforcement.
And you heard our guest talk about undermining trust in that institution, right? Those people we entrust to uphold the law. You trust those cowards in their masks? You trust those people?
If they don't wear masks, people go to their houses and they go to their churches, Mike.
Oh, well, maybe they should stop shooting people in the back, Darren. You see how this works?
You shouldn't fight with the police.
Nobody fought with the police. Nobody fought with the police. See, I don't understand, Darren, why this even started with the number of people deported under Barack Obama and the number of people deported under Donald Trump's first term. This got nothing to do with it. Has to do with somebody being shot in the back. That's what this has got to do with.
People are protesting.
So you can't So you want to live in a world where you can't protest on the street? Is that it?
No, you can protest.
Well, then
but you ought not to bring a gun to the protest.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That seems like a reasonable thing.
Darren,
should Alex have brought a gun to the protest?
First of all, I didn't see the gun. Second of all, he's legally allowed to carry it legally.
That's fine.
Okay, so you want your Second Amendment in the United States. You want
that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
But once law enforcement says do whatever, once they say
what did they say? Did they say that?
Down,
did you listen to our guest? She's got expertise in this. She said she heard none of those vocal commands, not one.
They were wrestling with the guy. The guy was fighting them. They're not going to fight.
Okay. Darren, I'm going to move on because I'm sure Scott has an even better perspective. Scott, good morning.
Oh, you're not going to like it, Mike.
Shocker.
Again, Mike, where were you during the truckers' convoy and scuffling people? And I understand we're not talking about that. Where were you condemning mass law enforcement during the truckers' convoy?
See, you have such an interesting version of history. I was on record, and again, I told you this yesterday, Scott. I've got the receipts. I was completely against the use of the Emergencies Act. I opposed it when it was implemented. I oppose it today. The courts have upheld that, and nobody in the convoy got shot in the back by a police officer, did they?
Nope.
Okay, so I don't understand what the what about is then. Like what on earth does the convoy have to do with what's going on in Minneapolis? Randy, I'm going to give you a chance to save this segment.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Come on, Randy, save me.
No, man, I don't agree with you. The Canadian Liberal government, they use horses to run people over.
Hey, Randy,
yeah.
do you think this came up yesterday too? Do you really think that the woman who was trampled by the horse, it was done deliberately? Do you think a police officer in Ottawa deliberately ran his horse into that woman?
Well, if it looks a duck and it quacks like a duck.
And Randy, what does that in Ottawa, where the woman, by the way, is still alive today, what has that got to do with what's happening in Minneapolis?
Well, it's
make the connection. Make the connection. Be honest with me. Make the connection.
The situation is, you're allowed to protest, but you're allowed to protest in a peaceful manner. Those protests that they're doing, they're actually attacking ICE. Okay?
Wait, Randy, stop it. Randy, you didn't answer my question. What does Ottawa have to do with Minneapolis? What's the connection? Why do you want to defend the shooting of Alex Preddy by a bunch of cowards in masks? Okay, that's what you're doing. So you can do it on your own time. I thought we had something here today with a guest from the FBI. But no, it's the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. The Ontario Provincial A Ringette Championships are coming to Kitchener. It will be a collaboration with our Ringette associations in Waterloo and Guelph, and we're here to give you more information about it this morning. As each of these associations joins me in studio, Carolyn Baltaz, president of Waterloo Ringette Association. Good morning.
Good morning.
Brian Kettles, my buddy from the Kitchener Ringette Association, past president there. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Mike.
And Satinder Shane joins us as well, vice president from the Guelph Ringette Association. Satinder, good morning.
Good morning.
Great to have you here. Thank you all for being here. Brian, let me start with you. How does it feel like? What does it mean to this community to have the championships in March being hosted here?
It's great. It's very exciting. We're very central, which makes it great for travel for teams to come. We get to really highlight our local community, our local ringette associations by working together, and we're bringing all these fantastic athletes from across the province. So it'll be a fantastic event, we're hoping, and some really good ringette.
Carolyn, how do these associations collaborate on this to bring the championships here to the region?
Well, we've struck a committee, and so Kitchener and Waterloo have provided the ice. Guelph Association has provided the majority of the volunteers, but we're all trying to source sponsorships. We're all trying to source swag for the players. We're all going into our communities and trying to find the best people we can find to help us host this terrific event.
Satinder, can we talk about that volunteerism, the spirit of volunteerism in Guelph, and how you were able to rally these folks to help out?
Yeah, so we're fortunate to have a great group of parents who are willing to give back to the sport. And once we formed this collaboration, we found that the way we can best help with this was through volunteerism. And I have a lot of exciting parents who are dedicated to the sport and dedicated to the cause that are willing to help. So we're really thankful to them.
I remember talking to Brian about this a while ago, Satinder, and I'll start with you here. But when it comes to the sport itself, especially with the growth of women's hockey, how is Ringette doing in Guelph?
In Guelph, Ringette has been growing year over year, and we are still seeing growth. Most of our growth comes from word of mouth and referrals and bring friends, and they try the sport. And in my case, my kids started when they were learned to skate, and now one's in U19 and one's in U14, and we haven't looked back. So it's a community sport. They build great friendships through there. So yeah, it's a great sport, and it just grows organically, I believe, more so than any other incentive.
Brian, you've been at this a long time. How is ringette doing in Kitchener these days?
I'd say the same. We're stable. We get more growth. We're not as big as we were in the 80s and 90s with the advent of girls hockey, but it's a fantastic team sport, fastest game on ice, and I think once girls play it, they're hooked. And girls know each other from across the province. My daughter has friends in Richmond Hill and Mississauga and London, just from connections and tournaments and things. So it's a real community across the province, and I think there's nothing that beats it. And so, we're still adding, same thing is mostly word of mouth that comes. We do in-school programs with Gym Ringette, and that helps expose people to the sport. And so, it's hopefully it'll continue to grow.
Carolyn, you mentioned we've got this committee together, the three associations, Guelph, Kitchener, Waterloo, all working together on this, but plenty of opportunity for sponsorship, et cetera. How can folks get involved and help out with this?
So we're looking for sponsorships for player of the game. We're looking for sponsorships for each level. We're looking for sponsorships for medals. So we have our committee with our letters, and we're going out into businesses trying to entice businesses to sponsor these athletes and help us fund this program.
What are you seeing in Waterloo Ringette these days in terms of the interest, the enrollment, et cetera?
Like Kitchener and Guelph, we're fairly stable. COVID, of course, did play a factor in our numbers, especially at the older ages. But our fun program is growing every year. Like Kitchener, we are in school doing Gym Ringette. Our major drive is our Come Try Ringette event. We're lucky in Waterloo. We have a National Ringette League team. And so our littles really enjoy watching those ladies whiz around on the ice, and they sometimes get to go on the ice with them and do some warm-up and the national anthem. So it shows little girls how far they can go in this sport to university and then to the national stage.
Yeah. Satinder was talking earlier about her kids being involved in it. How did you get involved in the Ringette Association?
So my daughter did learned to skate, and hockey was not her thing. And so our neighbor said, well, we're going to go to this Come Try Ringette event. And we did, and she's been hooked. And so she's U19 as well.
That's fantastic. So, Brian, the championships come up in March. So, 5-6 weeks now we are away from it. What do we need to know about these championships when they're here?
Well, most of the games will be at Rim Park in Waterloo. And then Sports World in Kitchener, which is the ice. So obviously, come out and watch these fantastic athletes and whiz around the ice. These teams, we're going to have 800 athletes, so plus parents and coaches. So they're going to be staying in hotels, eating at restaurants, looking for things to do between games. So, watch out for they'll all be wearing their swag, I'm sure. So when you see them, hey, cheer them on. And, we're also looking for things to put in their goodie bags. We're trying to put together player appreciation bags. So, if any businesses want to donate any small items to stick in there for our athletes, there's 800 bags being put together. So we need lots of stuff for them. But, yeah, come out and watch and see that it's so much faster than many other sports on the ice. And a lot of people say, oh, it's like hockey, but it's not. It's nothing like hockey. So come out and see.
From how far afield, I know we're talking provincial championships here, but where's the furthest team? Do you know now by this point?
We don't know yet. There's still teams qualifying.
Okay.
But there are teams as far as Sault Ste. Marie, North Bay, the Ottawa area. We're
Timmins.
all potentially becoming, yeah.
Timmins as well?
Timmins, yeah, potentially.
Yeah. Satinder, thinking about this in terms of the competition for ice time, et cetera, how does that all get coordinated with the Guelph Ringette Association?
Well, that's where we value the collaboration with Kitchener and Waterloo, is that we in Guelph don't have as much ice time we would like to support these events. So we're really thankful to our partners for that ice. And we are helping with the volunteerism and anything else that we can. We also have a 50-50 raffle, electronic one that I can share
Is it live already?
It is live.
Fantastic.
And if anybody wants to support, that would be great. It will, all the money that's funded through that will be split evenly through the organizations, and it'll go back to the sport. So, so we're very fortunate for Kitchener-Waterloo to collaborate with us for the ice.
How can we find that 50-50?
So if you go to Raffle Box.
Raffle Box, okay.
Yeah, there would be a Provincials, Ringette Provincials, a 50-50. You can find it in there, or I can share the link with you.
Great, and I can put it out on our socials for sure.
Yeah, and that would be great. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian, you mentioned though, and Carolyn was talking about sponsors as well. Anybody that might be able to help contribute to those goodie bags, etc. Where's the best place to get in touch with you, or maybe is there a contact form somewhere?
Yeah, we have a contact form that again I can share with you, Mike, and we have a tournament email. But you can also email any of us. President at WaterlooRingette.com. I'm past president at KitchenerRingette.com. Or Satinder, I'm not sure what.
Past president.
Past president at Guelph. So emails directly and we can connect with the committee. But I can share the form with you as well, Mike.
That's great. I love seeing these collaborations come together. We're going to have some high-level ringette in the community from March 12th through the 15th, Sports World Arena, Rim Park, and some top-level ringette to be played. Thanks for all the work that you're doing with your local associations. Love this collaboration and look forward to the championships in March.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks all for being here. Carolyn Baltaz is the president at Waterloo Ringette Association. Brian Kettles, past president, Kitchener Ringette, and Satinder Shane, past president, Guelph Ringette Association. Joining us on the Mike Farwell Show this morning. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Nine agencies across our region have partnered to call for urgent action and long-term investment to help adults with developmental disabilities. One of those agencies is KW Habilitation. Anne Bilodeau is the CEO there and joins us for a conversation. Anne, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
What is the gap that we are trying to fill here? Why is this urgent action and long-term investment needed?
Well, it's the ever-growing wait list, for one. In terms of the information we just had shared, 53,000 people are waiting to access developmental services across the province of Ontario. I pulled the stats for Waterloo Region, and we're way over 1,000 people waiting for either 24-hour care or for supportive housing, just as an example, in our area. So that ever-growing wait that families have with their adult child still living with them at home gets compounded when us service organizations, me along with my colleagues, are facing budget restraint in that we've had no increases. Probably it's been about 30 years that we've seen an erosion. So we might get a little bit here and there, and we're always grateful for any funding that does come our way, but it's not enough. And we are really asking for some consistency moving forward so we can help. We believe we have a strategy that can actually help families.
What does that strategy look like?
Invest in developmental services, invest in organizations like the 8 that are in Waterloo Region and, of course, across the province also. Because if we can help families in our organizations, the domino effect is stopped. So what happens now is a family will go into crisis, and what will happen in crisis situations is they can wind up in hospitals. There was an ombudsman report very recently that was released on people living in hospitals with an intellectual disability because there's no place in the community or resources to house them, or they wind up in shelters. We have anywhere from 12 to 35% individuals who are in homeless shelters have an intellectual disability, and long-term care is the other area. Families having nowhere to turn, so when they go into a long-term care or nursing home, they bring their adult child with them, and we know that often family members don't live. They don't outlive the child with a disability, and there they are in a long-term care at 35 or 40 years old.
What kinds of supports are made available or can be made available through agencies like KW Hab, et cetera?
Well, we certainly, there's a wide gamut. The housing is probably the biggest one, and 24-hour care support. So many of us have homes throughout Kitchener-Waterloo that provide the 24-hour support. But right now, I talked to a family member this morning that was told, unless you're in highest need, meaning crisis, the odds of getting a home placement is anywhere from 15 to 20 years. Everyone to think about that for a moment. Here I am. I have an adult child living at home that I can't continue to care for, especially as I age, and there is just no access to beds. Having expansion in our sector is also few and far between. So if you invest in us, and we can work with families to look at the many varieties of housing that we might be able to look at, we may be able to assist. And that's probably the biggest concern right now is families are in crisis. They cannot take care of their adult child at home, and they're not getting the resources in which to help do that.
I feel as though, Anne, like we're in the tunnel and we can see the light of that train approaching. I mean, it just makes so much sense when you talk about families, the parents may be aging, the adult child who needs that support still at home. Like, we can see what we're headed towards here, but why the inaction then at doing something to remedy the problem?
Well, I think it's the vast amount there. It seems to be overwhelming is part of it. And there are resources that need to be injected into the system. And so what's happening now is we do run by crisis right now. And I can talk to a family member. I bet I get at least 2 to 3 calls a week where I have to say, I'm sorry. And because there just isn't any room. So what's happening now is if there's one bed open, there's a list of 50 people that are in crisis that need it. Very, very difficult times. And families have no choice, and many families are in crisis. I had to tell a family member, I'm worried about your safety and your son's safety. Please know that there's alternatives. And one of his alternatives was to go to a hospital. And that shouldn't be the end. We should be able to deal with the families that we have in the community. It always seems that when you're dealing with crisis, you never really get into value, right, in terms of a person's good life. And that's where we're indicating, give the resources to developmental services and let us help families.
You mentioned earlier, Anne, this 30-year erosion when it comes to the funding. Did we just reprioritize? Did we not keep up with inflation? Like, how did we get to this point?
Not keeping up with inflation is bang on. We've never received annual cost of living base increases, as an example. Many people are accustomed to that, but in our sector, that's never been. I've been around for many decades. And so this is probably the first that I've seen in my career at this level, too, where they're just not keeping up. So I look out the window and I think of how cold it is, and I right away think, oh, my gosh, my snow removal costs this year are going to go through the roof. Heating, gas, we don't get an annual budget increase. And what we're asking for is, please set us up for some success, commit to a percentage each year so we can start working with families and looking at being able to truly make a difference in our community.
As you and these other agencies sound the alarm over the crisis, Anne, is there anything the community can do? How might we be able to help?
Support the movement that we're trying to get that message out there. Support by letting your MPP know that this is a valuable sector. We need to help at the beginning so that we're not dealing with crisis at the end. The ripple effect could also help in the homeless population. It could also help in the LTC wait list. So it's a really good potential to actually look at some resolution in our future if you invest in developmental services now. We need public support to sound that alarm with their local politicians.
Anne, I appreciate the work that you do, and thank you very much for the time on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike.
All right, enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye now.
Ann Bilodeau is the CEO at KW Habilitation, one of 9 local agencies sounding the alarm, they say, over what's described as a deepening crisis in developmental services. Chronic underfunding over these past several decades have brought us to this point. And just imagine if you are a family caring for a child with a developmental disability. We all get older, don't we? And now some of these families are aging out, if you will, of their ability to properly care for and or support that child. And there is no place for them to go in the community because of this chronic underfunding. The agencies involved in this call to action, along with KW Habilitation, Community Living Cambridge, Deaf Blind Ontario Services, Elmira District Community Living, Extend a Family, Caris Disability Services, Parents for Community Living, Sunbeam Community and Developmental Services, and Tri-County Mennonite Homes. Those are the agencies that are sounding the alarm. And as I said, just in listening to Ann this morning, we can see this light. It's Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, but we're not at Disney World, are we? And that train is approaching. The light is getting brighter and brighter. We can see this right before us. We know what needs to be done, and yet we have decided to prioritize our funding elsewhere. Perhaps some advocacy to your MPP, and that's why these agencies are coming together to sound the alarm collectively. All right, I have to get you to the 570 News Center for an update. And then as we do every day on this show, we open up the phone lines so we can hear directly from you during our Talkback Hour. Those phone lines are open and you can make the call and start the next conversation right here on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage out of sight, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
I'll just quickly start with this, and it's a strong objection I want to voice right now. Canadian Hockey League just released its weekly top 10 rankings. I don't see the Kitchener Rangers on there. Like, come on. What the what? Brantford from the OHL, Ottawa from the OHL, Barrie from the OHL. Where's my Kitchener Rangers? They're playing tonight versus Sarnia, by the way, pregame at 6:30. Josh Piercy and I will bring you all of the action, Rangers and Sting, and then we'll stay late, even though it's a school night, and take your calls on Rangers Talk. Everything you need when it comes to Kitchener Rangers hockey is found right here on your home of Rangers hockey. That, of course, 570 News Radio. This is also your home for Talkback every day, noon till 1. We're getting busy already, so if you can't get through on one line, remember, you can try to sneak in on one of those other lines, even the 1-800-570-5715 line. But I'll get right to business, right to the phone calls. We'll start with Kyle. Good afternoon, Kyle.
Good afternoon, Mike. I'll just get right to the point. I'm not a fan of thugs, like you said, with their masks on. That's law enforcement. Let's just be clear. Law enforcement that are trained to de-escalate, arrest, and go put somebody through due process of trial. What happened was you had one person that was, yes, sure, he was protesting, but you got 7 or 4 or 5 of these thugs putting him down, and then somebody comes behind him and points blank to him, shoots him in the back of the head. That's not justice. That's not law enforcement. That is basically what the Germans did back in World War II if you went against them. It's the same thing. But, you know, when you live in a country, I guess, that has the highest amount of mass shootings and school shootings in the world, you know, you're not really surprised in what happens, but it's disgusting. I'm not going to go for it. Like I said, They're law enforcement. They're supposed to de-escalate. They're supposed to be trained on how to do this. And when they're starting to go in and shoot to kill society, that's something that I cannot stand with. Thanks, Mike.
Kyle, appreciate the call. I have a difficult time calling Alex Preddy a protester based on what we saw. He came to the aid of another woman that had been shoved to the ground by these cowards in their masks. And yeah, de-escalation. Even if, and we never did see the gun, even if they thought that Alex Preddy was reaching for a gun, there were 4 or 5 of them. Cowards just pull out their gun, bang, bang, problem solved. Come on with your coming on. Jim, good afternoon.
Hey, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good, Mike. I want to talk to you about the flyover accident.
Sure.
I I go over there probably 4 or 5 times a week, and I saw it on the TV yesterday. And when I saw how the snow was cleared and how it had the ramp effect, I was almost horrified to see that. Even I know driving there, if you have, not even if you lose control, even if your tire just happens to hit a bit of that snow, the way that ramp is, you could easily go over that, not even driving, crazy. Just you'd get pulled over it like a vortex effect. And my other thoughts, after they had the first accident with the taxi, they should have closed it right then and there and cleared all the snow off. And that's all I just wanted to bring up to you. I'm a little disappointed with that yesterday.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate the call. You're not the first person to mention that. How many times do you need to see a vehicle get airborne over a snowbank before you take action? It's a fair question to ask. I just want to remind you, we got to do this morning as well to clarify. This is a provincial jurisdiction, provincial highway, provincial snow clearing operation, which, by the way, happened but quick, didn't it? I understand the snowbanks are already cleared from the flyover. Day late and $1 short, but here we are. Appreciate your thoughts on that, Jim. James is next on Talkback. Hello, James.
Hello, Mike. I just wanted to say that you have a lot of patience, because yesterday I wanted to talk to you, but I was just hearing all this rambling and stuff from people that thought these thugs should be getting more empathy and stuff. And I'm like, this is just wrong. And the thing is, you're calling in on this show, and I'm sure you're thinking that Mike is infringing your free speech. No, he isn't. You came on his show, and Mike has control of the show and stuff. Your rights are only being infringed if you're going to get arrested for coming on the show and expressing your opinion. But I just wanted to say, because of what's happening in Minnesota, I really think that all these thugs are being hired without any background checks, which is very dangerous and stuff. And I think that's why all these killings are going on, because these guys have no background checks compared to some of the employees we have to hire. I mean, I've worked in healthcare, and we have to go through a police background check in order to get a job with them. It's not like we can just get a job very easily. And I really think that all these guys were rushed in to be hired just to kill innocent people, and they also got barely any training, less training than a police officer or someone in the military. And that's why I really don't think we should be giving ICE any respect, because they're just pretty much the new ISIS and the new 1930s Germans and stuff. That's really what I have to say. But keep doing what you're doing, Mike. I really appreciate you expressing yourself and stuff. And the thing is, I really don't think some people should be all for free speech, because they are just always canceling everyone for expressing a different opinion. And I find they have less guts than you, Mike. That's really just what I want to say.
All right, James, appreciate the call. Appreciate the support. I've been at this a while, so I'm okay over here, but it's nice to hear something like that. I'll just put this out there for some consideration. And this is just from experience, something I've learned through life. If you ever wonder if somebody is telling you the truth, you can usually, one of the tells of somebody that may not be fully truthful is the amount of time they spend trying to tell you their story. The truth is the shortest distance between 2 points. It's just the truth, right? And so what we have witnessed in Minneapolis, particularly the most recent shooting, if you start talking about I can't believe the number of people that have tried to compare this to the convoy in Ottawa. My goodness gracious. But if you're starting to go there and you're moving away from the facts of what happened, because we've all seen the videos multiple times by now, then you are searching for untruths, right? The reality is a man holding a cell phone was wrestled to the ground and shot in the back. That's it. That's the story. That's the story. And no amount of word salad is going to change that truth. And that's where I get probably more than a little bit annoyed if you've heard me over the past 24 hours or so. And that's just my experience when it comes to people who are telling me the truth and people who are trying to make up their own version of it. Brenda is next on Talkback. Hello, Brenda.
Hello. With regard to the latest Minnesota shooting, I agree with Kyle. I agree with your perspective. I got riled up yesterday and today. 2 men callers called in at the end of the show. 2 men callers, 11:30. Their perspective is off the wall. I mean, I enjoyed listening to that FBI agent. She's a woman. Us women have that sixth sense perception. And that ICE agent, that thug, shot 8 times the guy in the back. You can hear the shots. I counted them. And he should be charged with murder. But I got really riled up with men callers who are supporting the ICE agents down there because, no, that was clearly murder, what they did.
All right, Brenda, I appreciate the call. I suspect that there are women, too. I don't know this is gender specific. And as to our guest, she happened to be a woman. I would have thought that somebody with 29 years experience with the FBI, having trained and managed ICE agents in her career as part of an anti-terrorism unit, talking about de-escalation, etc. I thought that would have been authoritative enough to help us understand better why what happened in Minneapolis was so very wrong. I was incorrect in that assumption, but that was my hope by bringing her on the show today for sure. Grant, you're next on Talkback. Hello.
Yeah, good day. I'm going to touch on the Ranger game on Friday. They played a good, intensified game like they did on Wednesday, and hopefully they can carry it on for tonight's game. And is that it? Andonovsky? Is he a real Andonovsky? Because he did not get himself into trouble. Way to go, buddy. And as a protester, in regards to this Minnesota ordeal and that individual that you had on the last caller yesterday. Oh my goodness gracious! I want to go to a protest where I can protest without having any kind of violence. And like you said, that guy was helping out a person, and I can almost guarantee if that ever happened in our area, something would be done about that. I don't know. They're so hung up on violence. I don't know what. I have no idea what they're thinking about.
I hear you, Grant, and I can assure you that nothing like that would ever happen here because our law enforcement officials are highly trained and experts at what they do. They would de-escalate before they would ever. It would never happen here. It would never happen here. And that's the trust we place in the rule of law and the agency we charge with enforcing the rule of law, the police. That's how police conduct themselves, the way we see them conduct themselves here, the way they manage protests and manage crowds, etc. That's what we get here from actual trained police officers, law enforcement officials. I have no idea who these guys are in the U.S. And Grant is so obsessed with Matt Andonovski, he forgot the Rangers played on Saturday, too, and won their 7th straight game. They'll be at home tonight versus Sarnia, trying to win their 8th. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Talkback is your chance to have your say on the issues of the day. You make the call. I just keep answering them. Preston Paul up next, Farwell's Force member number 45. Good afternoon, Paul.
Good afternoon, Mike. I'd like to rip you about those rotten Leafs.
Oh, come on. Why you want to kick a guy when he's down?
I'm not. I want to rip some of the guys yesterday on your rant and rave at the end there, giving praise or accepting or allowing the ICE agents to do what they do with their mask faces. People need to take a history lesson and see what's actually going on, because if we don't remember what history did, then we are in a world of hurt.
I think we're in that world of hurt right now, at least temporarily, Paul.
We are. It is so scary, and I just love listening to that woman, that FBI agent. She just said it so eloquently, and people need to wake up that the world and our society, living in North America, is falling apart, and we better be ready for it.
Appreciate the call, buddy.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, enjoy the rest of your day. Good to hear from you. Let's go next to Sean. Good afternoon, Sean. You're on Talkback.
Good afternoon, Mike. I'd just like to step away from the horror down south for a moment. I was hoping you could help me find out the truth about something. It's referring... I just drove over the flyover on my way home. And do you remember when it was repaved not so long ago? I was told that there used to be brine sprayers on it, and now they're gone. Is that true?
I don't have that information at my fingertips. I'm sorry.
So I would like to find that out, because if that's true, since the brine sprayers have been removed, 2 cars have gone over, including 1 death and 1 severely injured. But I was told they were removed to save money. I would like to find out about that. Do you have, journalistic people that can find out if that's true?
Of course, we can look into that. Absolutely.
I would like to know if that's a real thing, because if that happened, that's despicable.
When you went over the flyover, Sean, the snowbanks,
being really careful.
The snowbanks had been cleared, though, yes?
Yes, they are gone now, after the fact, of course.
Yeah, of course. I get it. Listen, I want to be really careful here. There is going to be more from this story. We know that. And I don't mean in terms of driver behavior or error. Let's just be blunt here. Somebody's going to get sued. It's going to be the provincial government. I don't think I'm giving anybody a hint here at something, because clearly there were issues. But we always look in situations like this for some sort of source of our blame or our ire. And I got a similar question several weeks back when it came to the problems that we're having with snow clearing this winter, the salt shortage, and oh my gosh, did we blow the budget already? And the answer, yes to the salt shortage, no to the blowing of the budget. I don't know that if these trucks that applied brine were removed from the road, it would have been strictly a cost-saving measure. So I'm not going to entertain that. I know we're looking for some sort of skullduggery here. I'm going to encourage you to keep looking for a little bit. Let's get to the bottom of things. I don't want to be getting into the habit of, outlandish rumors here. I will absolutely make an inquiry, and we will learn more, I promise you, as this investigation continues. Because what happened is awful and, frankly, by the looks of things, unacceptable, considering that the woman whose car went over was the second vehicle that same day. Jonathan is next on Talkback. Hi, Jonathan.
Hi, Mike. Let's go Rangers tonight.
You betcha.
Yeah, I'll be in my normal seat, not at home on my desktop.
You send me the occasional email as a long-distance listener. I like that.
Yep. My usual seat is front row behind the visitors' bench. I'm the guy pumping my fist with the Let's Go Rangers when we score.
Attaboy.
Staying warm out there?
Well, no. To be honest with you, Jonathan, I am absolutely not. Rosie, the pandemic pup, and I took a couple of walks yesterday. The afternoon with the sun out, we went pretty long. That sun was a game changer. We went out for another short walk after dinner, and let me tell you, colder than charity out there. Let me tell you. George in Cambridge. Double O, George. You're next on Talkback.
Yeah, Mike, I'm having trouble understanding something. Maybe you can help me out. Maybe you've already addressed it and I didn't hear it. Why would the London Knights send us one of their best players on that team when they know we're both competing against each other for that playoff spot to go on to the OHL finals? I don't understand why they would do that.
Yeah, it's a great question, George, and I think what it is about is the London Knights' decision and their management's decision that they just don't have everything they need to make a really deep run this year, so they're going to be pretty ruthless with that roster. They're going to trade away players like Sam O'Reilly and Jared Woolley so that they, the London Knights, can reset and get ready for their next string of... Remember, they went to 3 straight OHL championships, won 2 of them, and a Memorial Cup. They probably want to set themselves up for another run exactly like that. And in order to set themselves up for that, they had to swallow hard and make a tough decision this year. I ain't complaining. I have loved these guys, Woolley and O'Reilly, since getting here. They've been a huge boost to the Kitchener Rangers, but that would be why. So it's unlikely, the way the standings look now, that Kitchener and London would meet in the playoffs. So London saying, we don't have the jam to compete with all of these teams that are going for it in the West this year. We're stepping back and we'll let the others skate past us for a year and see what happens. Never write the London Knights off, but that's my thinking behind their decision. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
News Radio.
You know how this works, right? You make a call, I answer the phone, you start the conversation. It's really that simple. Talk back every day from noon until 1, discussing the issues of the day. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Jeff, Farwell's Force member number 19, Breaker 19. Good afternoon.
Hey, little buddy. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. My tip of the hat off to you, buddy. And I mean that. I don't want to open up a can of worms, but absolutely tip. You were great today with the ending of your show yesterday with the 2 phone calls there. I agree. I agree to disagree, but it's perfect having that FBI young lady on to explain, and I hope people sit back and they think about what you're seeing, what's being said. Don't watch CNN, because CNN's going to give you a different outsight. But I've had family members that were on the regional, and I've got a son that's in Ottawa that's RCMP, and I'll tell you something that I don't think I'm happy. I do what I do for a living, Mike. Maybe I should forget what I'm doing because it's getting dangerous out there with the ice and everything. And maybe I should come and you and I can co-host your show,
buddy. You'd have to clean up first, my friend. Come on, we have standards around here.
Oh, that's too funny, buddy. But honest to God, Mike, with what having that young lady on, it definitely opened my eyes a little bit more, but I do have my own thoughts, and I agree exactly on your thoughts. Exactly. And it's you know what, buddy? It's too dangerous out there to be on the police force or anywhere. It's just you got to keep your cool. You got to be a gentleman or a lady that have a peace of mind. That's all I want to say, little buddy. Perfect. Excellent way of doing it.
All right, Jeff, thanks very much for the call. It's funny. Jeff drives truck. He talks about stopping doing what he's doing because it's too dangerous out there because of the ice. He means the ice on the roads, not the masked thugs that are walking around cities in the United States. toll free. Jay, good afternoon.
Well, I have a topic of great concern we need to discuss right now.
Okay, let's hear it.
If Seattle builds a 28-3 lead on February the 8th, can New England come back?
So you are talking about the Super Bowl that's coming up a week from Sunday.
Yes, sir.
And didn't Atlanta build up the 28-3 lead on the Patriots back in the day?
They did so, sir.
So if Seattle does that, can they hold on and win against the Patriots? I have the answer, Jay. I don't care. I just don't care about this Super Bowl one little bit.
Why I'm doing this, sir, is because at the end of the day, we have to just kind of have some peace, enjoy the life the best way we can, and get through it the best way we can.
I like that. Can you do me a favor?
Sure.
Can you stop calling me sir?
I'm just trying to be respectful.
I know, and I appreciate it, but don't do that for me, please.
Until I see it. Well, would you rather I call you ma'am?
Yeah. Just don't call me late for dinner, buddy.
Absolutely, sir.
All right.
Absolutely, Mike. We'll talk soon.
All right, Jay. Oh, just call me Farwell, please. Andre, why do I have to go to you to save me today?
Because it's game day, baby.
Game day, baby.
Mike with the mic.
That's me.
Oh, I've been listening, and with all the callers and listeners and guests and hosts and all you want to call the shebang, Mike, thank you for being you. But I have to say, me with 85% of the people being good, right? And I caught it today, what you said. We are in that world of back in the days of 1930s, whatever. I know myself with the loss of smell and taste and the sight, half my hearing, my emotions are very hyper. And that's why I'm very medicated so I could be balanced. When I take taxis, when I go to places, I'm not going to mention, but people say bad things about people, and I'm very afraid, Mike, that this is kind of like the beginning of a new world that I don't like. And me and my wife, we talk, it's like, where can we live where it's not like that? And there is no way. There is nowhere, right? So thank you again for your show and to the people being there, having different opinions that you allow. But man, oh man, Mike, it's not pretty. Go Rangers.
All right, Andre, thanks for the call. Look, Andre made reference to the 85%. That's something that I like to talk about, the old 80-20 rule, but I would submit to you that it's even higher than 80% of the people that you encounter, that you walk past, that you drive past, that are in the grocery store with you, in the coffee shop, in the school, in the library. 85% of them are salt of the earth, really fine people, just like you. Just like you. There is a segment. There's a small percentage, 15-ish percent that, aren't the greatest people. Okay. But there's no reason to bury your head in the sand or crawl under a rock and think that all is lost. Please. Like, I understand that we have some big, hairy problems that we're trying to solve. Heck, right here in the region of Waterloo, we've got like legitimate problems around our water supply. And by the way, just in case you didn't know yet, there's going to be an update provided on that. We believe, according to the region tomorrow, that we will be hearing a preliminary list of solutions to address our current water capacity constraint. That will be a list of short, medium, and long-term opportunities that include upgrades and repairs, as well as new and innovative approaches, adding infrastructure such as a pumping station, reallocating water supply, immediate investment to repair existing infrastructure. These are some of the things that the region will be talking about tomorrow. We'll have a reporter there. But that's really on the ground. I know the bigger issues that Andre is referring to is what seems to be this real division, this real polarization. Right? It's difficult. It's difficult to understand why anybody would want to try to rationalize and otherwise explain away the shooting of an innocent civilian in the United States by alleged law enforcement. People that are supposed to be there to what? Crack down on immigration? And this is the stuff that we've been seeing. It's tough. But please don't ever think that all is lost, okay? And on that note, if I may, I'll just take this opportunity to shamelessly promote the upcoming All Request Friday here on the show. We do it every Friday. We put a theme on it. And last Friday, because a week ago, Monday was Blue Monday, the most depressing day of the year, apparently, we did sad songs in keeping with Blue Monday. So we thought, well, Annie sent me an email, and Annie, Farwell's Force member number 7, thought, we need an antidote to sad songs. So let's do happy or uplifting songs for All Request Friday this week. So that's what we're going to do. And it can be because you're bummed out by the weather, you've got the January blahs, or you're bummed out by world events. We're going to uplift ourselves. Here's some happy music for All Request Friday this Friday. So when you call in here to talk back, or you just want to make a request by phone, please do that. Jen is more than happy to keep track of it. Or drop me an email, mike@570news.com. I'll add your request to our list of happy or uplifting songs for this Friday's All Request Friday. Talkback continues this afternoon here on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Talkback is something we do on this show every day from noon until 1, opening the phone lines to allow you the opportunity to weigh in on the issues of the day. Maybe you didn't get a chance to have a say on one of our earlier segments. Maybe you've got something completely different you want to bring to the show, which is absolutely fine. If it's important to you, it's important to us, and we're happy to hear about it on Talkback. I do want to go back to an email I got from Steve earlier today, because we talked with Regional Councillor Doug Craig, and he expressed his concern and will formalize this concern in a motion coming to Regional Council. And the concern is that the provincial government may be on the verge of appointing a regional chair for us. In other words, we don't get to elect the regional chair. If Karen Redmond runs again, or if it's somebody else, we have always elected that position, or for many decades now, we have elected that position. But it's possible the chair would be appointed. I think this is just some saber rattling from the province, but nonetheless, or just some rumors to shake us up around here. But it brings around the idea of some sort of reform of local government. I've always thought having 2 levels at the local level is a little bit ridiculous. And Steve's email to Mike at 570news.com says, with the municipal election approaching, I believe it's the right time to consider a referendum to decide our path forward. In my view, we need to choose between 2 clear paths: a go-it-alone approach for the 7 municipalities and townships, or coming together as one united region with a single mayor and 1 set of elected officials. Our current 2-tier system is highly inefficient, and consolidating would eliminate a significant amount of redundancy. Steve, I'm with you. I am with you 100% on that. As a resident of a rural township, I am frustrated by the inefficiencies of the region. We see major issues being mishandled, such as the Wilmot land grab and ongoing water concerns. At the same time, policies like the Countryside Line prevent us from developing our economic potential. It often feels like the townships are being sidelined and expected to be satisfied with whatever we are given. I look at our neighbors in Puslinch Township and wonder why our townships cannot prosper in the same way. For instance, I should be able to sever a lot on my rural property to help my children, yet current restrictions make this difficult. I believe the citizens of this region deserve a direct say in how we are governed moving forward. Steve, an excellent email. I worry a little bit about the referendum just because that is another layer of bureaucratic maneuvering. However, if it is something that we can actually have a public conversation about, I'll get behind it, because I could not agree more with the idea that our current two-tier system is highly inefficient, and consolidating would eliminate a significant amount of redundancy. You're preaching to the choir, my friend, and I'll keep preaching from my pulpit as long as I have it, but who knows? Maybe this year we won't need to anymore. There is an election in October, and the province just might be sticking its nose into our municipal business. Let's get back to the phones here on Talkback. Terry is with us. Good afternoon, Terry.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. Just quick about the referendum. I don't know if it would solve anything. People would probably be afraid to vote one way because they would be afraid of change.
Yeah, that would be a significant change, that's for sure.
Yeah, like we've been dealing with this first past the post for a century and a half, and people don't want to change it because for the sake of change, right?
Yeah.
Because we've always done it that way. But
Sure.
anyway, I agree with you, Mike. That thing that happened down in the States, that is Nazi thuggery at its prime. That should never have happened. And going back to that flyover, that's been there, about 15, 20 years, give or take?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly couldn't say. But yes, it's been there plenty of time, a long time, yes.
Because you remember previous to that, it was that weird...
Absolutely, I do.
Because you had to kind of work around because there's traffic coming in different directions. But anyway, that's the first time I've heard of something. I'm sure people have smashed up that concrete barrier many times, but going over it, that's the first time I've heard of it. But mind you, people should stop driving in the middle of January like it's the middle of July. You can't, especially under an overpass like that, because with wind, it will freeze any moisture, and you will slide and skid if you're going too fast. But my thinking on this is what they're going to probably do, that because you're right, it is an Ontario responsibility, the Ministry of Transportation. They're probably going to put like a 6 or 7 foot barrier there now, like a fence or some sort of wall to prevent people from going over, because you can't stop the snow from accumulating there. I know they've removed it. I've heard that they've have removed it, but no, they're probably going to put some sort of barrier there now to extend that, to keep people, because like you said, you can't change people's behavior. If they're used to doing something, they're going to keep doing it. So I think that's what they're going to do, Mike. Anyway, thanks for taking my call.
All right, Terry, thanks for making it. I hadn't even thought of an additional barrier there, which actually makes a ton of sense and is almost certainly going to be a part of the outcome here, isn't it? Right? There's a reason that they have those fences between the vehicles and the fans in the grandstand at NASCAR events, et cetera. So, yes, there will be an additional higher barrier installed. I would be shocked if there isn't. But one of the other things to consider here is, as Terry and I think back on the length of time the flyovers existed and how this hasn't happened prior to now. Look, the last 2 winters in particular have been unlike any winter that I can remember since I was a kid. I don't know about you, but we're in a different kind of winter. And believe you me, I hope this is not some kind of trend that, we're kind of going back to those winters of my youth, because I liked them when I was a kid because all I had to do was play in the snow. I got more important things to do than play in the snow these days. You know what I'm saying? I don't need winter like this. My old bones don't need winters like this. But I have to wonder if, frankly, and I'm not trying to assign blame here, but there's a reason that the snowbanks were removed immediately following yesterday's tragedy. Surely there is some kind of standard set whereby once the snowbank on the side of that flyover reaches X centimeters or meters high, it's supposed to be cut down. Surely that standard exists somewhere in some department's manual at some level of government. In this case, the Ministry of Transportation. So why did we fail to do that? Are we starting to lose sight of the basic services that we should be providing to residents of our community, of our province, of our country? I worry a little bit. We got big ideas. We got big problems. Let's not forget the important stuff on the ground that we've been clamoring for the better part of a decade or more. I don't know. I worry a little bit. Shouldn't have happened. And now, we'll take the snow down. Great. But what standard was set that we missed? I don't know. Mary, you're next on Talkback.
Oh, my goodness. I got on.
You're on.
Mary come lately.
Yeah, you're always Mary come lately.
No.
Yes, you are. You're okay.
Oh, okay. But anyway, it's nice to get close to the last word. I was going to call after that RCMP woman. I thought she was wonderful.
FBI.
Yes, the FBI. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
And then the two people, or the two or three people that called after, I couldn't believe what they were saying. I thought they were out to lunch.
Well, they didn't listen. That's the problem, I think.
Yeah, but you know what? And immediately I said, hey, I'm going to call into Mike. But you know what? You've had so much support on the same idea that these are a bunch of thugs. You know?
Well, because
do you know what I'm saying?
Most people can see the world for what it is, Mary.
Well, no. No, those guys are called. They and then they turned it to the Ottawa thing.
Right, but you said I've had lots of support because most of us can see what's going on. That's why, yeah.
No, you have, and I'm happy about that because so now I know we got intelligent people.
Exactly.
And go Rangers, go!
All right, Mary, thank you. I see a name I haven't seen in a long time. Reg, I got like 30 seconds.
Hey, I just want to chime in on the flyover. Everybody's got to keep into perspective that we had just had about 48 hours of solid snow. The road crews are trying to do their best, but removing that snow, that's about a 12-hour job. You have to have trucks available, you have to have manpower available, and you have to have a blower available.
I get you, and I got to run to get to news on time for Rob Snow Show, but again, and we hadn't had it for 48 hours. We had some last week, and then we had a good 48-hour break before a little bit more came on Sunday. Prioritize it is all we're asking for, but appreciate the perspective. I got to go. My name is Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.